example with the coach on his staff that he basically blew off all of the things that were going on, downplayed it. Like, what's the big deal for a long time? And then it became a firestorm, and he got suspended. He got through that. I mean, so he's been through it. So sometimes I think you get in a crisis, you enjoy coaching more, like you just dive into the coaching part even more. So I don't know. I mean, I don't pretend to
that was
to know one way or the other.
You can out athlete. You don't really have to out scheme in college. You don't really have to out game plan. You can just out athlete teams on certain Saturdays in college. So I don't know who the opponents were, because you're right. He's littered with all this stuff. Obviously, this is all
I think in Florida
and sarcasm.
He had his share of guys getting crazy off the field. I mean, just some nutty stuff. With some of the behaviors of his
that he
players.
Overlooked.
Oh, you mean Aaron Hernandez and who are the twins? The Pouncey twins, Percy Harvin. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah. NFL scout friends of mine telling me when they go to Gainesville to scout the Gators, they would go to the campus police department first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That would be their first stop before they had to head over to the facilities. They would stop in to say hello to the campus police and see what they could dig up on the current roster. Yeah.
And I would also ask the question without knowing the answer. I'm just throwing it out there that when something like this comes out on video, you do wonder, is this just bad luck? That's the first time that's happened, or
it's not the first time.
I mean, so is this anything new for that family? I'm just throwing it out there. Is that much of a revelation? I know it's embarrassing publicly, so that's probably a factor here. But I don't know.
Unfortunately,
I don't know that the Titans can sit there and go, well, you're going to get a really bad version of Jacksonville.
Well, I didn't say that the Titans are doing that. I'm
Titans
saying
are business as usual,
right? But
they got their own problems.
Is it going to affect? Is it going to affect how the head coach, coaches their game?
Yeah, the Titans
their preparation.
The Titans need to be trying to figure out how to sign Stefan Gilmour, but that's another subject.
Once again, we're in love with a guy who has been released by his team, who has been a great player, but what version of Stefan Gilmour?
I bet it's better than the version of Jackrabbit Jenkins they currently have.
That may be true, but I just say buyer beware on a player why is he being released?
You don't have to guarantee anything, and you can get it on the cheap for the rest of the year. So
I'm on this one. I'm in because they look like they need some help there. I also would love to know more about what the heck is Caleb Farley's outlook in the coming weeks. So do they have any plans of playing this guy, or is this going to be a redshirt season like a lot of their rookies? So I think Gilmour is absolutely worth a look. But before we just start saying, hey, here's this, he's 31 years old. He didn't have a great year last year, and he's been released. Now, the money is a big part of the equation for New England, I would imagine. But
right, that's why they did it. He was coming off
Richard Sherman got picked up by the Bucs, but what Richard Sherman are you getting?
Well, if I'm being honest, I think Gilmour's probably also going to be picked up by the Bucs, but because they still need corner help.
They absolutely. I mean, they're desperate.
They got. I mean that was
depleted.
A win, but that was a loss.
Yeah.
Because it probably didn't feel like a win on Monday and Tuesday, or Tuesday and today, right?
So that's a good point. Is there's not going to just be one phone call. There's probably going to be a lot of suitors for Gilmour.
There'll be a lot.
It's not going to be just give him the league minimum and just give him a shot.
Have the Rams ever been afraid to go after a big name?
No.
They're kind of in go for it mode too.
But real quick on Urban, if you're Shad Khan or Trent Baalke, the GM, and more comes out, there's more video, and we all know that everybody's opinion changes when you actually have the visual to see.
The
video changes a lot of things. I think we all sit here and we say, okay, this probably isn't the first time that something like this has happened with Urban
It's
Meyer.
the first time it's gone viral.
But
he's had to answer questions about it.
And so now it's the prominent thing that everybody's talking about. So if you're Shad Khan, and I know he released a statement yesterday, and Trent Baalke, are you sitting in a room going, yeah, he doesn't need to be on the sideline on Sunday. He just needs to take a week off?
Well, I thought, but they've already come out with their statement saying I'm
know.
satisfied. I'm satisfied.
But more has come out since
It's like
then.
back
We've
to school.
seen more angles since then.
We've talked to him. I'm satisfied.
Yeah, we've seen some angles.
Did you really need to see some
we've-
more angles?
Well,
Lot of
I mean,
angles.
no, in all seriousness, I mean, look, the first one was enough. But, yeah, when you see more, it's like, oh, my gosh, like, Urban, what
Have I seen all the angles? I feel like I've seen more than one angle.
Well, you have because I sent the other one.
No, I had seen that one.
Oh, you had? Oh,
Yeah.
I had not. I had seen the original.
That angle is get a room. That's what that.
Well, that's
angle
what I was
is.
referring to
conclusive evidence.
yesterday. I was referring to that angle yesterday.
I'm sorry. I didn't see that one. I didn't know this is a stick up. I didn't see that this is a stick up, angle. I just saw the grind, and that's it. That was enough for me to already know that he was completely inappropriate.
Well, that's what I was referring to, trying to be tasteful about it. that there's a violation there. You know what I mean? It's a full on grope.
Okay, then I'm sorry.
It's more
If
than a
I
grope.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's no question.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's what you were referring
No,
to.
I was referring to that angle.
Okay, let's quickly because we got to get to Feinbaum on the other side, and we probably should.
It's probably
just
a good thing.
Go to the phones anyway. Leo is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What's up?
Okay, good.
And we
Good
lost
call.
him.
Good
He's
call.
tried.
Thanks, Leo.
He's tried twice. Maybe he's just in a bad cell. All right, we'll come back. Paul Feinbaum on the other side. Hey, Paul. We'll do that next here on the DDC, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Thank you, Matthias. We agree. You know what that music means. Yeah, every day starting at 2 o'clock when we're off the air. We go off the air. He comes on the air, our next guest. Can be heard, by the way, his show on 94.9. He's Paul Feinbaum. He's brought to you by mtgrt.com, your live and local mortgage expert. Paul, good morning. Urban Meyer, your thoughts?
I think every day that he continues as the head coach of the Jaguars is one more day of disarray and dysfunctionality for that program, and he just needs to go. I don't think it's really a tough decision. I think when the owner comes out 4 games into the season and essentially says you have to win our trust back, you're gone. You guys understand the NFL better than I do, and you know. If I understand the reports correctly, after Urban walked in that locker room and apologized the other day, he got laughed at. But that's just who he is. He's a joke. He was a great college football coach, but as an NFL coach, he's a total fraud.
In all seriousness, Paul, look, and there's a lot of people, there's a lot of theories out there that I know you know about, and for people that want to laugh at him, it is Urban Meyer, so I don't laugh at him that he could be plotting, his way out, and he'll still get paid. I mean, it could be a great strategy for him. But in all seriousness, while I have never said flattering words about Urban Meyer on this show for years and years and years, because I've been around him when the cameras weren't around him, and he's not a very nice human being. He's not very likable at all. But I've always said he's a hell of a coach. But at this point, with everything we know about this man, at this point, why, even if you're USC or whoever, if this ends in Jacksonville, why would you really want to sign up for Urban Meyer at this point?
Yeah, let's end that conversation quickly. USC is not going to hire him. That's not conceivable. They have a new president out there, Carol Foltz, new AD, Mike Bone, and it would be the upset of the century if that happened, because they are trying to clean up that program. They're trying to plant a flag and say we are the new USC. I don't mean that Helton did anything nefarious. They just need a new fresh start, and you don't get it with this guy. This guy is old news, and that's why he made such a colossal mistake. He got taken in by a typical billionaire owner. He could have had his pick of college jobs, and they'll start coming open pretty quickly, other than the SC job, but not now. You've already talked about it ad nauseum, but you go through the first mistake he made with the strength and conditioning coach, countless other coaches with practice, the Tebow disaster, and now this. And I'm not saying what we saw Thursday night was pretty good in terms of effort and performance against a very average NFL team, and the schedule has not really been his enemy at the moment. But it's not going to turn around, and I don't think you can overcome losing your locker room this early in the tenure. He may have done that already before this incident, but it's just common sense. You lose a game, you get on the plane. Urban Meyer has all the money in the world, and he can fly back and hop right on another private plane the next morning and go to Columbus and see his grandchildren, because Thursday night games mean you have a couple of days off. But it's the optics are beyond comprehension, and I don't think you overcome this. I really don't.
Ironically, the Titans, next up for them, is down in Jacksonville against the Jags this Sunday. So let's bring this then a little bit closer to home. We're both an SEC country. We both talk SEC a ton. LSU now has learned that cornerback Derek Stingley Jr., who's outstanding, is going to be a high NFL draft pick, is out indefinitely. He's had a procedure done on his foot. LSU's already not having a good season. If this continues to spiral the wrong way, downhill, there's already a lot of people saying, Coach O could be out. Then let's say that big, huge job is open in the SEC. Do you think they would dare go down that road and start, and pick up the phone and call his people?
I don't, because of all the SEC jobs, I think LSU is perhaps the most unique in terms of fit. You have to understand the environment you're in. And I don't think that's Urban Meyer. And I know he coached at Florida, but he was probably more comfortable at Ohio State. That's his native country. And I cannot imagine Urban Meyer. The idea of Urban Meyer going down to Lafayette and talking to a booster club, and they say, "Come on, coach, let's go have some crawfish etouffee." I mean, he would look at them like you're out of your mind. I don't mean to be Sherman-esque in saying that nobody would hire Urban Meyer, because it's been proven time and time again. But knowing Scott Woodward, the athletic director, knowing that his last two football hires were Chris Peterson at Washington and Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, Urban Meyer does not fill that template. He does fill it in terms of big, but big with way too much baggage.
Yeah. By the way, that was a good win for Auburn, which was interesting. They had not won there since 1999. But what do you make of all the chatter around their head coach? I mean, Tony Franklin came out in his podcast. You've got some former Auburn alums or players. Gene Chizik hasn't exactly been glowing about. There's a lot of stuff around Brian. What do you make about what's going on at Auburn, or is there anything going on in Auburn in your opinion? You've got a better pulse and a better feel for that situation than us, so tell us.
Well, remember, a lot of people didn't want him. The favorite of the good old boys was Kevin Steele. And I don't necessarily think that would have been a great choice, but that's who they wanted. So they had Brian Harsin crammed down their throat by Alan Green, who's the athletic director there. He's been there a couple of years. I give him credit. I mean, you go against the good old boys of Auburn, and you better have a resume ready, because I spent 30 years in that state. I know the way it works. I don't think Brian Harsin is in any great jeopardy right now. I heard what Tony Franklin said, and Tony's a smart football guy. But I think beating LSU will quiet everyone down, and I think we're going to see that from Auburn this year. They'll win games, they'll lose games they're not supposed to. But I think had he lost the game and looked bad, and the quarterback situation had become a disaster, it would have been a mess. But it's pretty remarkable, guys, what winning a big football game means. You guys know that.
Oh boy, that is for sure. Let's talk to Paul Feinbaum a little more, talking some SEC football. And Paul, we saw Georgia a couple of weeks ago just come in and roll through Vanderbilt. That's one thing. Then they completely do pretty much the same thing to Arkansas, with Stetson Bennett starting the game, who we all feel like is limited. Right, he's a good overachiever, but he's not a great quarterback. And yet, Georgia, it was men against boys against Arkansas. So how scary good is Georgia in your mind?
Their defense is the best we've seen in a long time. And when you can impose your will like that, the other team virtually has no chance unless you have a dynamic quarterback, which Arkansas did not have. And besides, Arkansas's two best players on offense, the quarterback and the wide receiver, were banged up. So you could have seen that happening, although a lot of us got caught up in the Sam Pittman is the story of the year mania. But Georgia will continue. This week they have Auburn, next week Kentucky. So I don't think we'll learn. I think they'll roll into Auburn. Kentucky's a little bit more interesting. They're a hard team to watch, but they also have a really solid defense. They've got a couple of key players on offense with a different system. And they may be a little more dangerous, but right now, and I know this is cliche, I think Georgia has a path to the playoffs, and even Alabama. I don't know how to handicap that game yet, because it's really not important. It's 9 weeks away. But anyone who thinks that they're getting to Atlanta other than Alabama or Georgia are crazy, and that goes for Dan Mullen, who does act crazy sometimes.
Well, following up real quick on Kentucky, they're winning close games, even against teams outside of ULM that they probably should be pulling away from. But it was close with Missouri, it was close with UTC, it was close with South Carolina, obviously with Florida. But like you said, they're finding a way to win. And outside of Georgia, I know this week against LSU is not going to be easy by any means, but I don't really see a threat to Kentucky other than Georgia.
Not right now, no. And I think this game will be difficult just psychologically. I interviewed one of their players yesterday, their star running back, and he said, yeah, it was hard, hard to get over that game quickly. It's the biggest win. It's one of the 2 or 3 biggest wins in the last 15 years for Kentucky. So that's understandable. It's probably fortunate they're playing LSU though, because LSU is a mess, and every time I hear Coach O come in on Monday and talk about how great things are, I'm wondering, is he delusional or is he simply seeing something different than the rest of us are? And you can choose your pick on which one he is. But I like Kentucky too, and right now, yeah, next week we'll get hyped. But Kentucky probably is the second best team in the SEC because there are so many pretenders right now. I mean, what Tennessee did to Missouri was, I thought, the biggest surprise of the weekend. I thought Missouri was a pretty good team. I thought Tennessee would be pedestrian, and to lay 62 points on the board was downright shocking.
Well, let's talk about another matchup of a couple of teams that were exposed, not ready for prime time. Arkansas now turns around and plays Ole Miss after both of them were in the spotlight and got hammered by the powerhouses. So how do you see that one? That's a big one. I want to see how each team recovers.
Yeah, I think Lane Kiffin's caught a lot of flack because he's easy to praise and easy to criticize. But Lane Kiffin going into Alabama said, you know what, I'm going for broke. I'm not going to try to win this game in the fourth quarter. With my guys versus an NFL team on the other side. So he took some chances, and he looked terrible in doing so. But I think he has a better team than Arkansas because he does have a really dynamic quarterback and a decent defense. And still, Arkansas, I just don't think can manufacture enough points to beat Ole Miss.
My last one, Texas A&M. They get the CBS primetime game here with Alabama coming to town. Like CBS chose to take this game, so they saw something in Texas A&M. But boy, after watching them, it doesn't look like they're ready for this matchup. But there's a lot riding on this with the expectations that go into all the investments in the coaching staff and everything like that. Do you think they have a chance to at least look good in this game? No, I don't.
I think they lost 2 offensive linemen yesterday for the year. They're playing with freshmen across the board. They have a quarterback who really can't see straight. He's the backup, and until they get Haynes King back, they may be good later in the year, but they're terrible right now. And I just think some of it just depends on Alabama. Alabama can play up to the level of the opposition or down to the level. And remember, Alabama's experienced. So they've been to the swamp. Nothing they run into at Kyle Field is going to intimidate them. I think for Jimbo Fisher, he just needs to keep this game within 2 to 3 touchdowns, which would be better than last year when they lost by 28. Now, by the way, I say he needs to do that. Jimbo Fisher has a $95 million guaranteed contract. So if they don't like him, I'm sure he'd be more than willing to take a check for 85 or 90 or however they would decide to do it. But they are easily the most disappointing team of the year. I mean, they finished last year number 4. They were considered a threat to Alabama before the season at media days, guys. And I know you were there. This was probably the game of the year in the SEC, and now it's not even the 4th or 5th best game of the weekend.
Paul Feinbaum is with us, and to that point, didn't they also just extend Jimbo? I don't know why you do that.
Another in the category of why did they feel the need?
They already had this contract that we all kind of turned our heads at, going, what?
Yeah, where was he going? And
then they extend him even more, and they're one of the most, if not the most, overrated teams in football.
Here's my theory on that. Scott Woodward hired him at Texas A&M. He's now the AD at LSU, and there have been rumors that Coach O, with a bad season, was going to be gone. So I'm assuming that Ross Bjork, who was at Ole Miss, everybody plays musical chairs in the SEC, he knew what was going on, and he probably said, you know what, I'm going to be preemptive. I'm playing with house money because money is never an object, so I'll just extend the contract. And I still think he could get out of that, though. I don't think there's a big buyout. So, but I don't think Jimbo Fisher is leaving to go to LSU. He did work there once under Nick Saban, and I think Jimbo Fisher and by the way, he almost went there 5 years ago. Jimbo Fisher they would have fired Les Miles and should have fired Les Miles, but the old AD got into a bidding war with Jimmy Sexton and said, you know what, I don't think it's worth paying Jimbo Fisher this kind of money. And here we are.
Tennessee opens up a can on Missouri, which, I think that shows us more about Missouri more than maybe it shows us about Tennessee. But Hendon Hooker now the starter, at least moving forward as they go to South Carolina. Has he shown you enough to make you think this is the right guy to run Josh Heupel's offense, or when they get into the meat of their schedule against some really tough opponents, is he going to get rocked?
He could, but I like what I see, and the thing that Tennessee hasn't done in the past is beat the bad teams. So you win this game, you've got a little bit of momentum, and right now, if you're a Tennessee fan, and I know we have a few listening, you start doing the calculus on the schedule, and maybe you can get to a bowl game. It was never that difficult to schedule, but I thought the Pittsburgh game was the teller. But Josh Heupel got one back, so now he's got a shot, and I think that would be a significant accomplishment in year one. To get to a bowl game, and I really like what he's doing.
Yeah, the way that I look at the schedule is this is one they got to have to stay on path to get 6. I don't think they're better than Ole Miss, so I think Ole Miss takes care of business there. And then they have at Alabama, at Kentucky, Georgia at home. That's brutal. That's a brutal stretch. And then
nothing there.
And then the out of conference for homecoming in Vanderbilt, they should take care of those. So unless he steals one somewhere, which I can't really tell you where that would be. I mean, this one they have to have.
Yeah, and I think they'll get this. South Carolina is really not a good team. I'm sorry. They have a better than expected defense, but they don't manufacture points at all. So I think Tennessee wins this game, and then you're right. I don't see that other win either, but don't tell anybody, okay?
Paul, we always enjoy the visits. Thanks for doing this. Have a great show today and a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
All right, that is Paul Feinbaum, brought to you by MTGRT.com, your live and local mortgage expert. Always good to chat with him. Always good stuff.
Very good stuff.
Oh, Urban Meyer.
Hey, Darren, I know this is going to surprise you, but I hope you're sitting down.
I am.
Will Fuller's going to be placed on IR with a broken finger.
No way.
Yeah.
He's played, what, 1 game this year or 2?
Something like that.
Yeah. Now he's done?
Well, 3 weeks.
Oh, 3 weeks.
Well,
okay.
he's at least 3 games.
Yeah, but that's normal people. Will Fuller, you have to times it by 2. I'd say he's out 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my own diagnosis 6 weeks.
There you go.
Will Fuller. We'll come back. More on the other side as you listen to Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Hey, if you want a chance to win Predators tickets during the month of October, which we're currently in, all you have to do is post a picture of your radio dial. Yes. Post a picture of you listening to us on your radio dial on 102.5 The Game. Yeah. Put it on social media, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram when they're up and running. Tag the game and use the hashtag TicketDash to be instantly qualified to win. Show us your dash, and that's brought to you by Social Furniture, Shop Local, Shop Social. I saw where Zuckerberg had a bad day the other day. I think he lost $6 billion.
I saw 7.
6 or $7 billion in a day.
Jump change.
To him, yeah.
Still, that hurts.
It hurts whatever level you're on. If you're even at his level, that hurts. I mean, it does. But yeah,
$7 million's like $20 to me. But
it's not like he
billion?
Googled Groupon today because
No.
he needed a coupon to go out to eat. But still, I mean, $6 or $7 billion in a day hurts. That hurts. What'd you think of what Paul Feinbaum said? I was looking at LSU's schedule. And last year they were 5-5, and it's like, okay, all SEC or all conference schedule, COVID. Okay, everybody got a pass, but still
Lost
for
a
LSU
bunch.
standards, yeah, lost a bunch. But for LSU standards, like 5-5, doesn't exactly sit well down in the Bayou. They go to Lexington this week to take on Kentucky. They don't have their best player on defense. He's out indefinitely. Then they come home to play Florida. Then they go to Oxford to play Ole Miss. Then they have a week off, and then they go to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama. Then they host Arkansas and ULM and Texas A&M to finish up the season. I don't get the sense there's a whole lot of wins in there.
They're a 3.5-point dog this week on the road at Lexington.
6-6, 7-5.
It's kind of what it feels like.
I don't know.
But you know what?
How after a 5-5 season, I mean, how much truly time does a national championship buy you
I think
in the SEC?
In the Bayou.
In the Bayou.
Yes.
How much does it buy you in the Bayou?
My personal opinion on it is I think you give him one more year. Because they lost so much. I mean, think about all of the talent that they lost after that championship run. Give him some recruiting classes to bring in there to try and stock that cupboard back up. And if it's not better next year, I mean, look, you guys know going into this year, I was on the bandwagon, and that clearly was the wrong prediction. I was on the Kentucky bandwagon too. I'm feeling much better about that one than I am LSU. But I think you give him one more year because do you really think they're not? I agree with Paul. I don't think they're going to hire Urban. I don't think that's who they're going to go after.
You've come around to that now.
I've come around to that.
Okay. Because I did say from the start, 0 point.
Well, you were talking about USC.
USC.
This is LSU that we're talking about.
Oh, he's not going to LSU. Well, I guess stranger things have happened because there are a lot of people that are saying Urban Meyer should be canned this week. Like they're going there.
Oh, there's people that don't believe he'll be on the sidelines. Sunday.
Well,
so this has escalated for sure, but I don't know.
Are you still laughing, by the way, at the notion that this could be a mastermind plan by Herb to get out, get paid, and, by the way, get paid to go away because that's what will happen. He's got a guaranteed contract.
So you're saying he would be willing to say to his buddy, film me committing a crime, basically? I mean, basically sexually assaulted the woman.
No, I'm not saying that was all. I'm saying now he's like this whole thing. He's just rolling with it. Like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't think I can win here. I've already lost the room. Okay, fire me. Just pay me to go away. Like, is that crazy for Urban Meyer?
Well, and I mean, Shad Khan could afford it. So
the question is to your point, Willie, with the new Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football angles. Does Jacksonville have the ability to do it with cause and say, we don't know you anything, man?
Well, I would think those are the circumstances he would do it, or try to come to a settlement.
I mean, I think there would be a lot of legal things.
Then it comes to what you were saying at the beginning of the show, Darren, the distraction. Well, now we're talking serious distraction.
Yeah.
Like, I was still sort of under the impression yesterday that it was addressed and they're moving forward. But there's been some more articles popping up of like, what are you thinking? Like, just go ahead and do it now. Like, that might be an overreaction from afar, but because I think the real principle for Urban Meyer is this happened, but he was already losing. He doesn't have the locker room, and as I pointed out in training camp, I was like, the Jacksonville, like, that locker room, nobody's had that locker room. Like, who are these guys to complain about new ideas and things like that? But there does appear to be a lack of credibility going in, and then this happens, and so that is a bad formula. That's a bad combination. But, man, you talk about intensifying in a hurry a lack of credibility. But I don't know. We'll see.
By the way, a lot of people who've been covering the league a long time have been putting out some pretty damning stuff about Urban Meyer the last 24 hours, 48 hours.
I mean, I think if he makes it through all of this in the next couple weeks, okay, that's one thing. But I stand by that. I think this is one and done. I don't see a future here, but based on this incident and then all the other reports about how the players feel about him and all of those things.
Well, this is going to escalate. When I brought this up to Tim and he agreed, there's no doubt this is in play. If they can't figure out a way to get into the W column and start winning games, the more he loses, the worse this gets. It becomes a mountain.
He is at the podium right now, by the way.
Is he?
Yes. Urban Meyer on why he didn't fly back home on the Jaguars plane. I thought at the time it was a chance for everybody to clear their head, including myself.
Yeah, well, he looked like he was.
Just get ready. These drop-ins on Twitter are going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, there'll be some great lines today on social media for sure.
So back to LSU for a second. Do you think Coach O's out? If they win 6 or 7?
You know the lay of the land in the SEC.
I do.
And by the way, when you win a national, when they've had the taste for a while now, they like to win down there. It's kind of important to them, and they kind of want to just keep racking up national championships. And if it doesn't feel like it's going to happen again on his watch, because ever since they won it, it's gone the wrong direction. You think they're afraid?
No, but tell me the coaches that are that would be their caliber that are going to be available, that that they could have a realistic shot at. I mean, I don't see Fickle in the SEC.
That has never scared anybody away, just so you know.
No, I know, but I mean,
there's never been a team, especially in the SEC, says, I think we're just going to hold on because I don't think we can find somebody better. That's not their mentality. Their mentality is, this is not working. We don't care. The next one will be better. That's their mentality. It's never, I don't know. Let's throw out some names, and I'm not sure they're better than what we've got. That's never the mentality. The mentality is, this isn't working. It's got to end now. And whoever we bring in, it's got to be better. And they've already convinced themselves it's going to be better. It doesn't matter what we think.
That's fine. So who's going to be better?
I don't know. Like, they'd have to get in a room and they'll have a list of names.
Like, is Hugh Freeze, is his name going to be on that list?
Like, do you think it will be? I do.
I think
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
From a strictly coaching football standpoint, I think it should be, but I don't know. I mean, I thought he would have left Liberty after last year.
Chase,
I thought he'd already
look
be back.
at their basketball program. You think they give a damn about what Hugh Freeze has done at Ole Miss?
It's a very good point.
He's still, by the way, he's still their basketball coach.
He is.
You know him.
I do. I do.
You guys went to high school together.
Yeah. I don't know if he'll be at the high school reunion this
week.
Do
you think that they're really going to be like, hey, I know, all this other stuff with our basketball, but we've just looked the other way. But by God, we've got standards for football.
Well,
I'm just telling you, we're going to do things the right way when it comes to football. Give me a break.
Okay. All right. That's a fair argument.
So Yes, he's on the list.
So who else? Who else would be on the list?
Well,
Realistically.
that's a pretty good start, isn't it?
That's a good start. I mean, Jimbo's name is always going to come up just because I think it's always going to come up.
Okay,
when
but
it comes to that job.
Let me just throw this out there, and I want you guys to try to hold your laughter, okay? Just try to hold your laughter because I know in the past this would be a very laughable moment for the show because anytime you would suggest, we're not hiring a coach from there at LSU. If Kentucky beats LSU this weekend, they're going to be 6-0. That's going to be the first time they've been 6-0 since 1950. Do you know who their coach was in 1950?
Bear Bryant.
He had a
Bryant.
nickname. They called him the Bear.
Yep.
Paul Bear Bryant was the coach. I know. It's a coach at Kentucky, and it's football.
They hired the coach from Vanderbilt.
Well, that's true. At what point does Mark Stoops start getting looked from bigger schools?
I think that's a very good name.
What more does he have to do? I'll admit, I wasn't impressed with him early on, but he is I've obviously changed my tune. The guy can recruit. They are getting guys in there that can play at the next level. They are recruiting their butts off, and it is hard at Kentucky. Well, let me tell you something. You think it's hard down there? You think LSU can bring in better talent than what he's getting at Kentucky? If he's having the success at a job that everybody has deemed is extremely tough and almost impossible to succeed year in and year out, and he's been doing it better than most, if not any. He really has. He's been there, 8 years?
Yep.
If he goes 6-0 and beats LSU, wouldn't Mark Stoops be on your list?
I think that's a very good name. I'll give you another one.
He's going to be on some lists.
There's another one, a coach in the West, that I think his name will come up. The Lane Train. I think.
Well, of course.
I think
yes.
Lane's name will come up.
Of course he will.
I think Gus Malzahn's name could come up. Maybe the stock's lower on him now, but I could
think
see
so.
him showing up again.
Lane Kiffin? Yeah. So you're telling me if they don't believe Ed Orgeron is the guy anymore, and we just named Hugh Freeze, Mark Stoops, and Lane Kiffin, you don't think that would give them cause to be like, hell yeah, move on, let's go? You think they're gonna be like, I don't know. Maybe Orgeron's better than those three.
I think it all depends on how much the national championship buys you. Now,
I don't think they
Chizik
care about timelines on that.
Chizik was out after what? 2 years?
2 years, I think.
So
We know Auburn doesn't care. They've done it twice. They've moved on pretty quickly.
Yep.
Right after getting to a national championship game. That doesn't buy you much time in the SEC. You think LSU's any different than Auburn?
I think Orgeron is pretty beloved, though, in general. In general.
I think he's beloved when they're winning. Do you think he's beloved right now?
I mean, that's his place. He
I
is
know.
there. That's worth something.
He is
I think.
he is Louisiana. I mean
he speaks their language for sure.
Go Tigers.
He eats their food.
So you guys were saying if they win 6 or 7. So I think there's a little bit of buy time if it's that. Now,
Which, by the way, is very realistic.
Oh yeah, but
6 and 6?
But if it completely collapses and they win 4, that might be another
Willie,
story.
6 and 6 probably feels like a collapse down there when you're coming off a 5-5 season. I don't think they're looking for 500 seasons back to back.
I mean,
that doesn't sit very well.
I don't think they're beating Kentucky. Florida,
They're not beating Florida.
I think that's more of a.
They're
it's
only
at home.
They're only a 3-point
It's in
underdog
Baton Rouge.
to Kentucky. So
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a colossal upset if they beat Kentucky. This is an unfamiliar territory for Kentucky to have a game in the spotlight
And
a
be
spotlight
favored.
like this. Yeah.
Yes.
I put Florida in Baton Rouge as more of a toss-up than I do. They're not beating Florida. At Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss is better. They're not beating Bama. They could beat Arkansas. ULM is a win, and Texas A&M is probably a toss-up. It's in Baton Rouge as well.
There are a lot of swing games there.
Yep.
There's a lot of swing games. They're not going to win them all, but they could probably win a few of them.
Right. I mean, no offense, but I mean, if it was Missouri and Vanderbilt and South Carolina, like we would say, okay, there's probably those are 3 wins probably for them. I mean, there's not a whole lot of stacking up W's.
Well, that's also something that should be accounted for. That is a pretty tough schedule.
Oh, there's no doubt.
A pretty tough schedule.
Once again, I don't think they factor that in. Like, okay, let's give them a break.
But I mean, they barely
they're used
beat
to
Mississippi
that.
State.
They're in the SEC West. They're used to tough schedules. That's what it is. That's life in the SEC West, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not like they haven't been accustomed to a tough schedule. I don't know. I think they would absolutely move on, and I think those guys would be. I think those are fair names to put on the list. I think they'll be on the list. I do.
Yeah, I'm
still blown away by the whole feeling the need to re-up Jimbo Fisher out of the fear that LSU might come open and maybe they'll go after Jimbo. It's
dumb.
Unbelievable.
It is.
I don't get it.
Why these schools feel the need.
We can't lose them to LSU.
To do that.
Happened?
Why?
I don't know.
He's not the guy that invented the game of football. He's
a
good coach.
It's probably because Jimmy Sexton represents all of them, so he just plays the game.
Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't even answer his phone call. It's like we already gave you the big contract.
What do
and
you
locked
want,
it in. We gave you a guaranteed long-term deal where there's nothing to talk about. Not even answering the phone.
And if they lose a few more games, there's going to be a faction of people that want him out anyway.
Right.
It's such a double-edged sword. It's like this. We can't lose we can't let anybody steal our coach. But hey, we might want to fire this coach if he loses the next couple.
So let's tack on more money than we'll have to pay.
It's why Jimmy Sexton looks like a genius, because he does. He plays the system against itself, and
he's a master at it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you love to know what he says to them to get them to bite? I don't know,
guys. Maybe you need an extension.
I'd love to know.
He's got a magical touch or something.
I don't think that's a sell. I think it's like, hey, I just got off the phone with LSU guys. They keep talking about Jimbo.
I don't know. I just want to let you guys know. I just want to be upfront with you guys.
No, I think all you do
is
be
transparent.
Baton Rouge. Are they getting rid of Ed? What's going on?
They might lose the next couple. That job could come open. I'm not sure.
I could just see Jimmy Sexton being at some sort of fundraiser and just like nonchalantly mentioning that to the AD of like, oh yeah, I was in Baton Rouge this week. For what? Oh, just talking, just hanging out, checking on Ed.
It's weird. Jimbo got brought up in that.
They asked how Jimbo was doing.
It's weird. But anyway, so how you guys doing? What's new? Well, you just lost to Auburn, first time since 1999 at home. Oh, okay.
It's rough.
Yeah, maybe that's his pitch. I don't know. All right, we'll come back. We'll switch gears. We'll talk about the Titans with Terry McCormick. But first, Willie, you're going to tell everybody about Lee Company.
Lee Company, back once again for another season. They're a proud sponsor of the Nashville Predators. And, of course, when you start going down to Smashville, and yes, isn't it nice that we're all going down to Smashville? Again, opening day coming up next week against Seattle. You'll see the Lee Company display. They've been supporting the Predators for a long time. They've got the home maintenance plan that I love telling you about at this time of the year. October, leaves start changing. Pretty soon you're going to start using that heating unit. Maybe you haven't had it checked in a good while. If that's the case, it's a great reason to strike up a conversation with the folks at Lee Company, because they can come out, get that heating unit checked for you. And while you're at it, look into making that yearly investment in your home, the home maintenance plan. You get the 4 annual checkups: heating, cooling, plumbing, electric. Small monthly fee, and in exchange for that, you get discounts on any repairs that need to get done. Lee Company is the place. Go to leecompany.com or give them a call at 615-567-1000. That's 615-567-1000. Or go to leecompany.com. Lee Company, proud sponsor, Nashville Predators.
Second hour, Darren, Daunic, and Chase here on this Wednesday. Hope everybody's having a good day to this point. Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic, Chase McCabe with you. Terry McCormick, TitanInsider.com is where you can find his work. Terry, just want to say on behalf of the show, our heartfelt condolences to you and the Yankees. We are extremely saddened by what happened last night.
Don't send Judge home.
You've been.
Did you see the New York Post?
You've been in our thoughts.
Did you see the New York Post headline?
I know you guys. This is all completely phony. You guys hate these
I couldn't even sleep last night. I'm just telling you right now. I tossed and turned all night, knowing that the Yankees were done.
Terry, are you aware of the New York Post headline?
What does it say?
Garrett bleeping Cole.
Nice. I tell you, but it wasn't all Garrett Cole because, the bullpen came in and up until Chad Green brought his gas can to the mound, they did okay. But to me, this Yankees team, I've been saying it all year long, they are severely flawed. They don't have guys who put the ball in play. They're up there swinging for home runs, and they've got these one-dimensional liability-type players like Gary Sanchez, Joey Gallo, that need to be gone. It's time for a rebuild. You keep Judge, you keep Stanton, you keep LeMahieu, you keep some of the pitchers, you get rid of these guys who just can't help you, like Sanchez, Gallo, Gardner's done, Rugnet, Odor, those type guys, Chad Green, those guys are done. They can't help you. They're liabilities at the plate. Go get a guy that gets 200 hits a year, not a guy that gets 200 strikeouts a year.
Terry, are you with the Yankees play-by-play announcer John Sterling that Giancarlo Stanton got robbed? His single should have been a home run. Do you agree with him?
I don't know. That ball, it hit the top of the wall. So, it was very
Have you
much
heard
in
the
play.
call? Have you heard the call?
No, I haven't.
Oh, boy.
No, I
Oh,
haven't,
my
but
gosh.
I watched
Oh, my
the TV.
gosh.
I watched, obviously the TV broadcast, and they were fooled, too. They thought that was out. But in that cool kind of died there and hit the wall because it looked for all the world like it was going completely out of the park.
I do.
Elijah,
I do
you
think
got to
it was,
find that for Terry. We got to have
I
that.
do think, in fairness to him, every single one of us watching the game thought that ball was going over everything. It was going to hit the
but he
Sitco
said it was
sign.
out of the park.
Yes, he did. He
said it went out of the park.
It didn't go well for him.
It went off the wall, and he said it went out of the park.
Well,
And then went into his whole.
What did I miss?
Well-
What did I not see?
Oh, well, I don't listen to John Sterling very much. I listen to Michael Kay. I think he's very good.
I think he's excellent. I think John
listening to
Sterling
him.
is excellent as well. He's been doing this a long time. He's just getting up there
Yeah,
in
he's
age,
getting
and I
up
don't think
there.
he was. I don't think he was at the park. Or I know there's been a lot of games where he hasn't.
Yeah, probably
travel.
not. But to me, the best combination is Michael Kay with David Cone. That's an excellent pair.
Yeah. Here it is for
Not
you,
quite
Terry.
as good as Phil Rizzuto and Bobby Mercer, but close.
Here we go. Here it is for you.
The pitch to Stanton. There it goes. Deep left. It is high. It is far. It is gone out of the ballpark. A Stantonian home run. Now, what did I do wrong? What did I see wrong? He's at first base.
Awkward.
Oh boy!
What did I see
again,
wrong? He's at first base.
I wake up in cold sweats that this will happen. This happens to play-by-play announcers. And John Sterling is how old now? He's over 80.
He's in
right?
the 80s.
He's in
for
his
sure.
80s. Oh boy!
He's got to be in his
Like to
80s.
have back.
That's when you'd like to have back.
What did I see wrong? He's at first base. How about he hit it out of the park?
And here, Terry, is it too much to ask Giancarlo to get the second base on that ball?
Yeah, I think he thought it was out too. So
Yeah.
he
He absolutely did.
He,
He threw the bat. He watched it.
yeah, he needs to get the second on that ball.
Well, look, I just wanted to let you know you're in our thoughts. It was tough for us to even come on the air, but we wanted to get you on because we wanted to try to cheer you up, and we're down too. So we're trying to cheer everybody up.
Thank you.
The
I'm great.
Yankees have been eliminated.
I could take shots here, but I won't.
Okay. All right. That's
I
fair.
know the 30
All right.
championships.
This is
all the
Terry.
It's after 11. Shots
Terry,
are fine.
hint taken. I'll move on.
Mr. Guardian.
It looks. See, there was no need. I had already told you I was going to move on. I was not going to say another word. It looks like the Titans are trying to give some people some good news. You know, it is the month of October. It is Halloween. And I think they're going to bring a ghost back. It looks like Darrington Evans may be close to returning. What do you think?
Well, it sounds like it. You know, Mike Vrabel said on Monday that he should be able to practice. The thing is, you know, I know that Darrington Evans can help you as a kickoff returner, but in terms of, you know, getting playing time as the third down back, how do you unseat Jeremy McNichols with what he's done the last couple of weeks? I think he's done very well. You know, I think the job should still be his, and that Darrington Evans is going to have to earn his way back, in my opinion.
Darrington Evans has got to prove a whole lot more other than, hey, I'm ready to come back to the practice field before he's going to see any Sunday action anytime soon. Don't you agree?
Yeah, the only way I could see him getting back out there and getting a role would be as the kickoff returner, because they have moved Chester Rogers just to punt returns only, you know, for the most part, I think. He can still do some kickoff return, but I think he's more effective if he only handles one of the duties. So that might be somewhere that Darrington Evans could find a role. But if I'm Todd Downing and Mike Vrabel, Jeremy McNichols has earned his spot, and I'm keeping him out there on third down.
Through 4 weeks, through 4 games, just sitting here today, the Titans have had 0 productivity from their draft picks the last 2 years. 0. I mean, these guys are just non-existent. Okay? Some of them aren't even here anymore from the last 2 draft classes. And so with that being said, not that the narrative can't change, not that things won't change, but today, this is what it is. They've had 0 production from their draft class the last 2 years. If you had to assess blame and lay it in somebody's lap, is it A, the general manager's lap, John Robinson, B, Mike Vrabel and the coaching staff, or is it truly C, all the above?
It's all the above. I mean, a lot of it's on John Robinson and the coaching staff. And the scouting staff. Some of it's on Mike Vrabel and the coaching staff. And I think you can kind of forgive some of 2020 because of all the COVID restrictions and the regulations that had to be put into place. And you're starting to see in year 2, some of those guys are starting to make contributions, especially Christian Fulton, who's their best cornerback right now. Now, he was hurt, didn't do much last year, but he's really come on in year 2. And they're starting – and the other odd part, and I blame this on the fact that they couldn't do a lot of scouting, is that their best contributors from 2020, aside from Christian Fulton thus far, have been the undrafteds that they plucked out of there, not their draft picks. Guys like Nick Westbrook-Akina, Tierre Tart, those guys are playing big roles for this team. And then you add in a guy like Tommy Hudson, who has been on the practice squad and now on the active roster. He's giving you a little bit. Aaron Brewer's giving you a little bit. All those guys came in as undrafted rookies, and they've outperformed most of the draft class except for Christian Fulton. Now, the class of 2021, I think there's where, it goes back to the same thing with 2020, where a lot of the problem is they're taking guys, it seems like, and banking on upside. They tried it with Isaiah Wilson. It didn't work because he obviously was not mature enough to handle the rigors of being a professional football player. We saw it with Christian Fulton last year, was injured, didn't get a lot of playing time. Don't know if he would have been ready to do much contributing or not. And you're seeing it now with Caleb Farley, with Dylan Radin. Those guys are unable to really carve out a role for themselves.
And Elijah Molden.
Because they're kind of project players with a lot of upside, especially Radin and Farley. But they're guys who are going to take some time to develop. I think, they may have fallen too much in love with that process because it worked out so well with Jeffrey Simmons that you take a player who, for one reason or other, whether it's an injury or, anything else that might happen, who's a top 10 talent, but falls to you when you're picking there in the late teens, early 20s, things like that. And you gamble that you're getting good value, kind of like finding, something valuable at a yard sale. It's kind of like finding a Mickey Mantle rookie card for $50 at a yard sale. So it's one of those things where they're going to have to wait on some of these guys to contribute, but I'm not sure that's the right tack that they should have taken, because I think in the second round, knowing that the Isaiah Wilson flameout was already behind them, that instead of taking Dylan Radins and the upside that he might have, they should have taken a plug-and-play player who came from a bigger school, in my opinion.
Yeah, because it's frustrating when you watch these games around the rest of the league, or even if you're watching who the Titans are playing, guess what? They've got rookies out there running around the field, or second-year guys that are contributing and are starters and are logging significant playing time, and you're like, well, why? These other teams are getting production out of their draft picks. Why aren't the Titans?
It's just that. I think it's their game upside, and they're in, that's also, the other end of the equation is this. You look at guys that have been here. Some of them have been injured. Some of them just weren't as productive as they should have been. You're looking at Jack Conklin. You're looking at Corey Davis. You're looking at Adoree Jackson. You look at all these guys that they have passed on the fifth-year option and wound up not being part of this roster. And, those are guys who are playing elsewhere in the league and doing pretty well in the case of Conklin and Davis, but they're not here. They didn't do enough to earn a second contract here quick enough. Had they done what they did in year 4, when they were headed out the door in free agency, then they would have earned a second contract here. But through the first 3 years, they didn't contribute enough to merit that, and now they're elsewhere and they're playing well, which has been another problem for the Titans.
Talking to Terry McCormick, TitanInsider.com. So now the one team's, I'm not going to say trash, it's a salary cap thing, but Stefan Gilmour is now a free agent. Is he somebody that you would make a phone call to if you were John Robinson?
Normally, as I tweeted this morning, I'm against these knee-jerk reaction moves that the Titans need to sign this guy or that guy that just got released by somebody else. But given the shape that their secondary is in, I think they ought to at least make a call and try to kick the tires on Stefan Gilmour and at least see what he looks like, because that's a guy who could be a significant upgrade. I mean, Christian Fulton has done very well. Chris Jackson has done okay in the slot. I've not been impressed with Janoris Jenkins so far. His nickname is Jackrabbit. He looked more like a turtle getting beat the other day. I just have not been impressed with his play thus far. So I think if you could get a guy like Gilmour in here and get him a look-see, I'd be all for it.
And what do we have with Jackson in terms of the injury? That's another thing.
Exactly.
Is he is what you hope to be a serviceable guy, like you were saying, but so he's not a superstar, but he's serviceable, but you might not even have him. That's another reason where you might go down the Gilmour road just to take a look.
Oh, no doubt, because I think Elijah Molden showed in the first 2 games that he's really not ready for such a big assignment as being the nickelback.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So I think they should definitely take a look. And originally I was like, okay, you cut Janoris Jenkins, but maybe if he's in the right role, do you view it that way, that it's almost like a Jonathan Joseph situation where he's playing a role he wasn't meant to play, and so therefore it's too much for him?
I don't know that I'd go there, but I think when they signed him, I think they felt that they were getting a guy who maybe was similar to Malcolm Butler, a guy who was going to take some chances, a guy who was going to make some plays, but occasionally give up a big play, then shake it off and come back to play again. But thus far, we've not seen very many plays made by him. We've seen him, get beat a couple of times. To me, he's a guy that is kind of, if I'm the coaching staff, if I'm Shane Bowen, I'm kind of putting him on notice to say, hey, we need you to pick it up.
With the offensive line, we discussed this the other day. I feel like Taylor Lewan is certainly not the same since the ACL, and I actually feel that they could move on from him after this year just because it would be very cheap to do so with that contract. Ben Jones, I don't think there's much left in the tank. As much as I love Ben Jones, you can just tell. And so therefore that's hurting the guards, and then they still can't figure out right tackle. Do you agree with my assessment, and how do you try and patchwork that thing together for the rest of the year?
Well, there's not a lot of options when you look at it. I mean, they've got to have Lawan, try to bounce back as he gets further removed from the knee surgery and what all that entails. They've got to have him try and, they may have to give him some help with some chips and some double teams and things like that with a tight end. But then you got the problem on the right side where David Quisenberry was kind of a turnstile on Sunday. And, you may have to plug in Ty Sambrayo or Kendall Lamb there, but neither of those guys look like they've been any great shakes either. The place that concerns me, too, is the fact that Roger Saffold and Ben Jones seem to be continually dinged up and can't get healthy. I mean, there's really not anyone on this offensive line right now that you could count on and say, this guy's going to get the job done. And there are really not a lot of replacements in the chute to plug in and play for those guys because we've seen how it's gone with some of the guys that have gone in there, and the results have not been great.
Terry McCormick is with us, and Terry, all of these things we're talking about seem to put more heat on Derrick Henry, where he is having to almost elevate all of these things. And I hate to use the word workload issue or the words workload issue, but it's just you can't ignore it, right? You can't go to this well too many times, but they're sort of forced to.
They are sort of forced to. I mean, you would have thought that the games against the Jets and this upcoming game against the Jaguars would have been games where you could limit him, maybe have 20 carries instead of 30 to try and save him for the stretch run that you're going to need him for in November and December, and then they hope in January for the playoffs. But right now with A.J. Brown and Julio Jones out, the pass game is a shell of itself. It's not up to where it needs to be. So you're forced to use Derrick Henry just because, he's your main weapon and he's your guy that everything runs through. To me, it's going back to the offensive line for just a minute, it's strange to me that the offensive line looks fine in run blocking because Derrick Henry's been getting yards ever since the opener when the Cardinals held him down. The 3 games after that, he's been getting yards like crazy, over 100 yards each week. And you would think that would help set up things in the pass game for play action, but it hasn't worked because the offensive line's been so porous.
It has been a problem. And another thing that's happening is, as we know, Ryan Tannehill is taking a lot of hits. So, one thing that dawns on me, Terry, is what I've seen them do a lot. They're using, I don't know if it's a lot more than they have in the past, but they're still using a lot of multi-tight end sets to try to keep those extra blockers in there, give different looks. But there's a lot of station to station in the passing game right now because some of those guys, they don't get downfield very much. It's a lot of 6 to 8 yard little hitches. And when you couple that with the fact that A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are out, there's really nobody that the defense respects to stretch the field. And it may be like that for another week or two, it looks like.
Yeah, that's a problem. And the other problem is that these other guys either don't create the separation that Brown and Jones do, or they haven't earned Tannehill's trust for him to make a tight window throw. I think he's fine throwing to Julio Jones with a man draped all over him in coverage. I'm not sure he's fine throwing to Josh Reynolds or Nick Westbrook with somebody draped all over them, knowing that they might make the play. Or worse yet, that if it gets picked off or something. So I think that Tannehill's trying to be as careful as he can, with the weapons that he has. But I think it's going to take at least one of Brown or Jones coming back in order for this offense to regain the explosiveness that it had.
I thought that's a good observation. Thinking back to the Jets game, they did give Reynolds a chance a couple times, and he had the one-on-one where they threw it up to him, and it was too bad. I really would have liked to have seen him seize that chance, or even Nick Westbrook-Akina, who I thought maybe had another level. This would be a good opportunity for him, but they weren't able to beat the Jets' corners, who are young, lower-round picks. You know, you would think that maybe that was a good matchup, and obviously Ryan Tannehill did. And those were the two guys he gave some chances to down the field where they didn't get a lot of efficiency.
Yeah, but there was one play. It would have been a tough catch, but I would like to see Reynolds make that catch in the end zone. I think it was on the first drive. And you'd like to see him come away with that football because you feel confident that in a similar situation that Julio Jones or A.J. Brown probably makes that catch. And the other ball, too, that I think really would have been a tough play, but would have been a play that should have been made, was the ball in overtime down the seam to Ferkser that could have set them up with a 1st and goal had he caught it.
Terry, real quick on the way out, is Randy Bullock going to be is Sam Ficken close, or what's his status? What do we know on him?
Well, all the injury issues are cloaked in secrecy over there. It's like getting information from the KGB. So, we really don't know what Sam Ficken's status is. I think, Randy Bullock is probably your guy for the time being. And to me, they have more important items of business. They got to get Brett Kern back.
Yeah.
Because Brett Kern is an integral part of what they do. You saw it with Johnny Townsend's 15-yard punt, just how valuable Brett Kern is to this roster.
I think it was 12, so I don't give him the extra 3 yards. It is amazing, right? Every time Kern misses, how big of a disaster punting looks like without Brett Kern.
Sure,
it's crazy.
And don't forget too that he's the holder on the field goal kick.
Right.
So that may have played a role in Bullock's miss as well.
Yeah, I think Bullock's been fine. I'm with you. Like, they got way more pressing issues than worrying about, if this is what Bullock is, I'm okay. They went into the season, they've changed kickers about 5 times, and if this is what you end up with and this is what he's going to be, I think you're getting the most out of the investment you made, which was virtually nothing. You just plucked a guy off the street. I'm fine with his production thus far. I don't think there's any rush to get Sam Ficken back. To me, Randy Bullock is the guy, and they got bigger problems than who's kicking right now.
I agree.
Until he misses about 4 in a row, then we got huge issues. Terry, thanks for the visit. As always, really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
All right, see you.
Terry McCormick, TitanInsider.com is where you can find his work. I want to talk to you about DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. And listen to this. They've got a Week 5 offer that every football fan should jump on ASAP. All new customers, listen up. You can bet just $1 on any NFL game this week and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. Yes, if either team scores a point. The last time there was a 0-0 tie in the NFL was in 1943. That was even before Kentucky went 6-0. Last time Kentucky football went 6-0 was 1950. Last time the NFL had a 0-0 tie, 1943. So I would say that's a no-brainer. DraftKings customers can also get skin in the game with new same-game parlays, combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Remember, all you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Right now, use that promo code 1025GAME and just bet $1 on any NFL game to win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. Use that promo code again, 1025GAME, this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. You must be 21 years of age or older, Tennessee only. Restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. Titans in Jacksonville to take on the Jags on Sunday. If you're looking for a place to hang on Sunday, listen to our pregame show. It'll be live at Corner Pub in Bellevue. It's out in Chase's neck of the woods. Yeah, this Sunday from 9:30 until 11:30 a.m. Our pregame show features Jared Stillman, Mark Howard, and Forever Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders. That place, Corner Pub in Bellevue, is located at 8058 Tennessee Highway 100. So go out there and hang, have some food, have some drinks. Our pregame show is brought to you by TriStar Moving, Parman Tractor and Equipment, FreedomTireGuys.com, FanDuel, E2 Roofing, Hillside Medical, Social Furniture, and Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. Back here on Darren,
Like
Daunic,
that.
and Chase. Yeah, you've tried it?
Oh, have I tried it? Yes, plenty of times.
Oh. You
It's
give it the big thumbs up?
big thumbs up.
Oh. How do you
See-
drink it?
Well, so this is perfect for me. So when everybody's like, "Hey, let's take a shot," that's what I order because I'm just not a big shot guy.
Yeah,
I
me
never,
either.
I never have been.
No, me either.
And so I like it because I like peanut butter and I obviously like whiskey, and that's my go-to. So I just take it as a shot. But I've also had it like on the rocks, in a glass, and it's really good. You just sip it.
I'm just going to reveal something I shouldn't do, but I'm going to because I don't care. Whatever. It's true. Have you ever cheated on shots?
I can
Have
neither
you ever
confirm.
Have you ever fooled the group?
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
So you have, like me. I have too. I've done that. I'm not ashamed because
I think sometimes you just got to do it.
I just don't want to do shots, and you don't. But you want to be a part of the group, and you
Yeah.
don't want to be a party pooper. And I've cheated. I mean, I've slid water in there instead. It looks like vodka. Sure, I've done that.
Well, I haven't done that, but what I've done is I
Or
will
fake it.
Well, I've faked it, or I will have water where I will either take a sip of the water where there's a little water in my mouth so it dilutes it.
Oh no, I'm talking about I've faked it. I'm not talking about diluting. I'm talking about I have faked the shot.
Well, I faked the shot too. I've done the
I've
quick.
put tea in, and
I've-
it looks like bourbon. I've put water in, it looks like vodka. I'm just saying.
I've done
I
the
have.
quick, like I take a little bit and then I come back down real fast and it just goes on the floor. I've done that.
Yeah, I may or
Because
may not have done that too.
and there's some times where I just suck it up and I do it, but like there's also some times where my body's like, yeah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like this is not gonna work for you. So that's why screwball I'm
Are you
good
saying
with.
it's pretty smooth?
It's very smooth.
Oh,
I highly recommend it. Like
well, next June, are you going to bring a bottle?
well, there was some this June. You just didn't partake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I
You
didn't.
were- You
really?
were yeah. You missed out on that.
Okay,
But there
well, I
was some.
guess so.
Yeah, there will be more this June. Don't worry.
I typically don't gravitate to the the shot groups. I usually go away. So
Well, there
that's
was
what
one
happened.
year that I introduced Fireball to the group, and that was
That was I wanted to leave you in the woods. I really did. I kind of wanted you to be a story like this, where Chase went on the trip and no one's ever heard from him since.
this was probably my
and then
second.
there was a forest fire
Yeah,
I'm just
because
saying.
he took the fireball with him.
this
you know,
was probably my second time on
I
the
was
trip,
really angry with him.
and I brought a handle of Fireball, and as we've talked about, I am the youngest one on the trip, and so I introduced Fireball to these guys, and at the time they all loved me, like, oh this is
everybody
great,
got
this is
pumped.
awesome.
Except for me, I was like, you.
And then the next day, it was like they cursed my name because we all felt it.
I wouldn't even look at him.
No,
today.
you were so mad.
My gosh, how could you do that? You just wanted it to be accepted, and you got accepted for a small amount of time, and then you were disliked the next day. That's the way
Yep.
I looked at it. All right, let's get into. By the way, the Darrington Evans move does not count
Not yet, but I
currently
mean,
against the active roster, the 53-man roster, because he will have to be activated from IR before that takes place. But it does seem like he's on track. We'll see if Casper gets back out there and actually gets activated. But I'll need to see it to
Casper.
believe it. I mean, well, I'm just saying, he's been a ghost since they drafted him. Just what it is. It's not like I'm rooting against him. He's just been a ghost. I mean, how could you honestly trust that he's going to be a factor this year until it actually happens? I don't know. You guys convinced me otherwise.
Step one is actually practicing. So let's see what happens.
Let him practice.
I think it's going to be a while before they figure out. They do need somebody who can make some things happen. That's why that's sort of the theme of what I wanted to bring to you guys' attention. This is not going to shock anybody, but it's going to bring into focus, I think, where they're really hurting right now. And let's start with this. Remember last year we talked a lot about time of possession? They had a 2,000-yard rusher last year. You would think that would have translated to ball control and time of possession, but it was not that at all. They finished 28th in the league in average time of possession per game because, A, Derrick Henry ran for a lot of long touchdowns.
Breaks big runs. A.J. Brown
and some other – they were getting more explosive plays, and they were scoring a lot of points. Couple that with the fact that their defense could not get off the field, so they kept giving up third down conversion after third down conversion. Their defense was on the field a ton. This year it's been a very different formula. Do you know where they rank in time of possession right now?
The Titans?
High. Very high.
Yep.
Very high.
Where would you guess?
Top 10 for sure.
8th.
Number 5.
Wow.
33, almost 34 minutes. And they are second since week 1 with the disastrous game against the Cardinals. The last 3 games, they've averaged having the ball over 36 minutes per game. So this goes with the whole double-edged sword of what is the value of time of possession. Because what is happening? Well, they're not winning the battle of explosive plays. They, right now, in the league, have the lowest rate of any team in explosive plays through the passing game. Dead last. Now, why is that? We know. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, etc. But they have really, really struggled in that area. So they have had only 8 explosive plays in the passing games. And that is defined. I'm looking at a website called sharpfootballstats.com. They define an explosive pass play of 15 yards or more. Now, you don't have to, it's not talking about a long bomb here. But they rank last in their percentage of explosive plays through the passing game, 5%. So and when you watch the games, it makes perfect sense, right? They're getting a lot of short passes. They threw the ball 49 times last week against the Jets. 49. But they didn't get a lot of big plays down the field. In fact, the longest one I think they got was Chester Rogers in overtime on the 3rd and 21, where he got 20 back. It was a big play. And then they picked up the 4th down. They ran 15 plays in their overtime drive. That's part of the reason they basically ran out of time. They had to kick it. That was a 15-play drive just to get down there. So they have really had to work for it. Now, Derrick Henry is still doing pretty well in the explosive play running game. Runs of 10 or more yards, they rank 9th. So we know Derrick Henry can still get it done. He still is getting it done. Thank goodness he is, because he's really all they've got when you get down to it offensively so far. Hopefully it will improve. Knock on wood if they can get these guys healthy. That's where a Darrington Evans would certainly help if you can incorporate him somewhere. But you guys have asked a good question. Where?
Yeah.
Like you like what McNichols is doing.
I mean, Mekhi Sargent,
he's not going to get you very many explosive plays, although last week he did break a couple, take a couple swing passes and turn them into something.
Yeah.
Right? He did pretty well.
Sargent
he
hadn't
converted
done
a 3rd and 16?
Yeah, that was an explosive play for them. Yeah.
I mean, if he's healthy and he can be on the active roster, great, but I don't think he's taking anybody's spot right now. He's going to have to earn his way in there.
Now let's go to the other reason that time of possession is so high. They are getting torched, and again, this isn't going to be – you're going to be like, well, I know, Will, I've been watching the games, but I'm going to illustrate it for you. Explosive plays in the defensive passing game, they've been bad. They rank 28th in that. And those are plays of 15 yards or more. Now, let's go a little further with it. Against the Jets, it's not 15 yards that are killing them. 53, a 54, and then a pass interference, which doesn't even count, of 43, the Cruikshank penalty, which was a massive play in the game where the Titans had momentum and then let the Jets get right back into it with that play right there. 43 yards. That's sort of hidden yards that doesn't go against your pass defense, but it goes on your penalty thing. But that's a huge play in the game. Against Seattle, they gave up a 68, a 63, and a 51. Arizona, a 38 and a 36. Indianapolis, where the defense I thought played a really good game, they gave up the one play of 36. But so they controlled them well, and as you can see, the results were a lot better. But they're allowing the defense. They're not. The problem isn't the third down conversions this year, where they're getting nickeled and dimed down the field, and they're staying on the field. This year, the problem is they're giving up too many huge plays, where they're giving up the entire real estate on one shot. So that's increasing their time of possession because they're not getting explosive plays. They're going 10 yards at a time on offense. So it's almost like it's flip-flop from last year. And I don't know what that means. Like you'd like to have somewhere in the middle here, right? Where you
Right.
get more explosive plays on offense. The explosive plays are huge, right?
Yeah.
And it sort of skews the time of possession.
Well, Derrick Henry's made a career out of that against Jacksonville.
Well, it'd be nice.
And that's what history will tell you that he's probably going to have one of those on Sunday, but you also can't, you can't plan for that. It has to happen. So, I think that there's a good chance he will.
Now
he will. He's been very, very good against them.
I can't find the specific ranking on this, but I gotta believe that there is not a team that has given up more 50-plus yard plays in the passing game than the Titans have so far.
Through 4 games, I would say that would be hard to find another team that has.
I mean, that's a lot of big chunks. So I heard the morning show guys talking about this. What do you do? Like one of the criticisms last year was they play too soft, right? They're giving up underneath stuff. They're not making offenses work. They're giving up too much cushion. Well, if they press and they're giving up huge passing plays, what do you want to do? They don't have the shutdown corners right now, it looks like. So it's like, pick your poison. How do you want them to play? The pass rush is not any great shakes. It's better, but I don't know if they've got the type of pass rush that is going to cure this right now. So how do you go about it if you're Shane Bowen? What's your game plan?
It's a great question. I mean, they're in the same position that they've been really the last 2 or 3 years with that in that department. I mean, it's going to be because how many times did we talk about it
last season and this season?
Yeah, well, okay.
Things have changed on the. No, I mean seriously. I mean things have changed.
Sure.
On the coaching side.
Yeah, because Dean Pease.
Yeah.
But I mean, even with Dean Pease, from a true pass rush perspective, he was blitzing a lot of corners. Logan Ryan was the one that was racking up all the sacks because of how he was using Logan Ryan. But in the sense of a true pass rush.
Well, does it matter though if you're getting
there?
No,
but I mean, we've been
how you get there.
We've been talking about pass rush in the Titans for 3 years, of finding a true pass rusher.
Yeah, they had like 45 that year, and we criticized. How can it get better?
Right, because they need a true pass rush. Everybody thought Harold Landry would evolve into that, and he's had a nice year. But that's what they're looking for, and it goes back to even signing Bud Dupree. This summer, I was like, that's great, but he's coming off an ACL injury. What's behind him? What does the depth look like? I thought that John Simon could be that. They just re-added him to the practice squad. But, we continue to have the same conversation because the main guy that they paid isn't healthy, just like Clowney wasn't healthy last year, and they don't have much behind him. Roberson's hurt.
Clowney's getting sacks in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is.
He's got Myles Garrett on the other side.
Well, I mean, so then what was the point of even getting him? If you have to have that other guy, then what's the point?
I think it goes to, I think at this
Well, they have
point in his
Landry.
career, Clowney is a good number 2, and he's playing with maybe the best number 1 that's going to take up so much of your game plan and your attention. Clowney, when he was sort of the number 1 last year, would we agree he was like the focal point? You were hoping he was going to make Landry better as the number 1, and he wasn't that. And then he got hurt. And that's where Bud Dupree, that's the jury is out on what's going to happen, even when he gets healthy, if and when he gets healthy, if he can be a number 1. Because Landry has had a good year.
Landry's had a great year. He's had a
And it's
that
a
side of
contract
the
year,
ball,
by the
he's
way.
Been of course. I had a former player send me a picture, a screenshot, after Sunday's game, or actually it was during the game. It was going back to initially what started this conversation when you said there was a 3rd and 3 play in overtime. And go look at where Jenkins and these guys, they're all lined up. It's 3rd and 3. Like, they've got the
was that the play
imaginary.
to Cole down the field? Was that the one that Archuleta made a big deal about? Because that was a massive play in overtime where they weren't lined
in
up.
The red zone. They were in the red zone.
In the red zone,
like at the 20, and it's 3rd and 3 in OT. There's 6.5 minutes to go, and we've got the imaginary line on the field, right? We can all watch the imaginary line, and Jenkins is probably 5 yards behind the imaginary line. 5 yards on a 3rd and 3 play in OT. And all of them are good at least 3 yards off the imaginary line. There's 4 guys, and they're all behind the first down marker. Imaginary sticks.
It's just disappointing. Another example that's been brought up, and the phrase that jumped into my mind was a phrase that our buddy Pat Sperduto used a lot when I would do the high school state championship games with him. He would say, "You don't pedal in the paint." In other words, if you're down there, and I'm thinking of the touchdown to Crowder, it was on a 2nd down, but it was down inside the 5-yard line, and Christian Fulton took a couple of steps back into the end zone and then made a great break on the ball, but he had backpedaled too far to make it, and it ended up being sort of he still, and as Archuleta pointed out, Zach Wilson sort of delivered. He hitched. So he delivered it about a half second late, and Archuleta said, I didn't think he had time to get it there to him on time. But because Fulton had backpedaled, he had that extra second, and Fulton was a fraction of second late. So, again, it goes back to, time and situation when there's, especially in the end zone, you don't need to backpedal. There's just nothing back there. So he needs to be up there a little bit more. And we're nitpicking on Fulton because he's been their best corner.
He has, and I think there's going to be even more from him. I mean, I just think, you can't expect – we've been high on him throughout the season, the first 4 games, but he's still going to make mistakes. He's still a second-year player. He spent a lot of his first year hurt. So, I mean, he's still going to have those learning moments. But I certainly like what I see, more than what I don't like. I mean, there's more to like than there is not to like with him. So, I'm sure that's what you're talking about, Willie, has been a moment of study for him this week. But you're right. He has been their best corner.
But when you've given up plays of 53, 54, 68, 63, I can see it where your mindset is a little bit, I got to back off a little bit. Like if you're playing basketball and you're up on a guy and the guy keeps blowing by you for layups, you got to back off some.
But in this particular play, it's a tie game. It's 3rd and 3, and you've got 4 guys all playing 5 yards, 4 and 5 yards behind the first down marker. I don't. And by the way, when the former player sent it to me with that screenshot, and he marked it all up where you can do. He said, "This is the Titans every week." That's literally what he said to me. This is the Titans,
and
every
that's
week.
Despite. I think I heard this. If I heard it once, I heard it 10, 15 times as a theme of the preseason broadcasts on television was that they wanted to play a little tighter. They wanted to challenge receivers more. But you have to evaluate what you have personnel-wise. If you just don't have those kind of guys, you can't do it. Obviously, they've proven so far that they're having trouble giving up big plays.
Well,
So if you're getting burned, you got to back off some.
you drafted 2 guys, and they're not on the field.
They're not on the field.
You tried to address that. They're not on the field.
Mm-hmm.
You tried to address it with a veteran, and right now, Jackrabbit needs to be called Janoris because he doesn't look like a Jackrabbit. He looks like a Janoris. And he just hasn't been great. And maybe it is. Chase, what you're saying. Maybe he's just, he wasn't brought in to be in these spots, so these are the spots he's having to play because guys aren't ready because of injuries, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what their thinking was. I don't know what their plan was when they brought him in. Like, this is what he's going to be. But all I know is right now, if that's how you're going to line up and play, it's going to be kind of hard to get off the field, right?
I'm curious how, we know Trevor Lawrence has a great arm. I'm curious how aggressive they are, knowing that the Titans have given up big plays, how much they try to attack down the field.
I just go back
Zach
to
Wilson, he kind of went schoolyard ball, right? He was
course.
saying, go deep,
Yeah.
I'll get it there.
That's a
he threw
rookie.
it like 55, 60 yards in the air on the run. It was an impressive throw.
Right, but that's a rookie in the first 3 games who looked really, really, really uncomfortable, and that was a rookie that looked like he was in year 3 in week 4 against the Titans.
Well, not in
Because
the
you know
first
why?
half, but as the game went on, you could see the confidence
Because the
level
Titans
growing.
weren't doing anything to hurt his confidence. Like,
Yep.
at some point, it's up to the team
No
to
doubt.
make the rookie feel like a rookie.
No doubt.
And he didn't look like a guy that was feeling like a rookie. He looked like a guy that kept gaining confidence as the game went along, and that's not what you want to see out of a guy who was a rookie quarterback and an offense that had struggled mightily coming into the game. And then they open up, for 27 points. Zach Wilson's out there running around like he's been playing in the league for 3 years. It's not good.
We focused on the defense, but also it also is become a glaring thing that they have a problem stretching the field offensively. And even with Brown and Jones, it's not their number one strength. They
don't
can
have a
keep you
deep
honest.
threat guy.
They can keep you honest and get deep, but they're not quote unquote the kind of deep threat that you want.
I don't think they have that guy. And that was a concern going into the season that they don't have a true deep threat wide receiver.
I think the coverages are going to indicate this. That's
Sure.
going to be, especially when you're having trouble protecting the quarterback for 3 seconds to even get a guy down the field to try to throw it to him. That's a problem.
A.J. Brown can cover it up because he's so good at yards after catch. I mean, he can basically turn into a running back and get more yards. I mean, it could be a
That is the bread and
15-yard
butter.
pass and he'll give you 25 more
Right.
just, after the catch. But and Julio, Julio's not a deep threat, but Julio's
He can
possession
get deep.
type. He
can
gets it.
get deep.
Yeah.
And he did against the Seahawks. So he can keep you honest there. You hope that they can still do the bread and butter where they get those crossing routes and get the run after catch. That's what A.J. Brown does best for sure. But I'm concerned about pass protection and having the time to get the ball deep when you need to keep the defense honest and having the people that can do it, especially when you have injury issues with your top 2 guys. I don't know that it's going to be any different this week. So it takes your Superman offense, it takes it back a notch where you're going 10 yards at a time. They've had to work for the most part to get the ball down the field.
At 10 Volunteer on Twitter asked the question, can Evans block? How would we know?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know what Evans can or can't do.
He's had so few reps even in the preseason games. It was his second carry or third carry of the preseason where he went down.
He's Casper.
And
He's
there
a
were
ghost.
no preseason games last year for us to get a look at it, or the coaches for that matter. So it is an unknown,
He's a
at
total
least from our standpoint.
unknown. No idea. No idea
And
what he can
I
or
do
can't
think Chester Rogers is doing a nice job in the punt return game. I do think he's getting some good yards. And because Terry mentioned with Evans' special teams, maybe he can give a little kickstart to the kickoff returns. But we know kickoff returns are a hard thing now to bust. They're so good at covering those things. Now, I don't know if he's going to make a big impact there. So it's like if you keep the third tailback, that takes another guy off the field somewhere. It takes a fullback off, or it takes an extra wide receiver off, or you got to make up for it somewhere. So is he worth having on the field? Now, they did keep Sargent active the week before. So they have done it, have 3 tailbacks active. And they use Sargent a little bit there, but Sargent, I think, he's involved in the coverage of special teams. I saw him out there covering a kick or two. I don't know if Evans does that. So if you don't figure into that other than kickoff return, will they use him? Of course, let's see if he gets through a few practices first before we even consider putting him in a game yet.
Let's hear what the head coach, Mike Vrabel, has to say to begin the third hour of Darren, Daunic, and Chase. He's supposed to address the media at high noon. So we'll do that on the other side as you listen to Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Mike Vrabel. Maybe.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Mike Vrabel.
Mike
Or not.
Mike
Okay.
Vrabel, head coach, Titans.
From the Tennessee Titans, Mike Vrabel. I guess we're having some sound issues.
Video's playing. There ain't no sound coming out of it.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Isn't there a song by Megan Trainor, Lips Are Moving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope. I see his lips moving, but yeah, he's right. No sound.
Well, people are typing. We can read you the tweets.
We will translate.
Willie, are you good at reading lips?
Play better, coach better, yada yada. All those things.
Focus on Jacksonville.
I thought it sucked.
Well, now people are just tweeting videos because they're there, so I got nothing. Do we think he'll give us anything on Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, whether they're going to practice or not, or it's still going to be one of those day-by-day things?
We know how it goes. If I were him, I'd be excited to tell everybody that those guys would be out on the practice field if that were the case.
Yeah, and he does do that. He does I think you'll probably see them out there today.
I'd be surprised if A.J. Brown is ready at this point. I'm hoping that this is maybe just being a little too optimistic, but with Julio Jones, I think there was a play it safe aspect to this the last 2 weeks, and so maybe they didn't push it last week, so maybe it's ready now. But there's no way to know that. There's just none.
Yeah, so I still don't feel good about either one of them.
No.
Being out there.
You'd also like to be able to think you could have enough to win this game if you didn't have them, but as we found out last week, certainly won't be easy.
Yeah, I'm trying to read some quotes here. It says Tannehill doing a better job of taking care of the football in recent games. He's also done a better job of not holding on too long under pressure. That's from John Glennon. Mike Vrabel saying that. Says Trevor Lawrence is taking care of the football. He's been efficient. It's been decisive. I think that's definitely true. I mean, you're seeing – and I heard an interview with him, I think it was before the Thursday night game, that he feels like that he's getting more comfortable with the speed of the game and being able to do those things. So that's obviously something that they'll have to watch on Sunday. But now the video's gone completely.
But I think we have audio. Let's check in with Coach Vrabel.
So those are all game-changing, turning plays that, yes, we would love to have as many as we could on offense.
Those count plays and pass defense, I think you guys are tied with the Chiefs for the most in the league with 5. Like, what can you do to limit those and not have those occur so much?
Don't look back at the quarterback. Play the ball when it's in the air. Don't. It's just a 50-50. I mean, it's not even 50-50. Some of those look like Hail Marys.
What can guys do to gain some separation on the offensive side?
I think we have to play more physical. I think we have to, if they're going to get up and get on us and grab us and play physical, that we're going to have to do that as well. Running great routes and using some of those, traffic opportunities when we can and to try to get open and create some space and, win.
Derek on Thursday the last couple of weeks, what makes that a good day to sort of give him a little break like that?
I only got 3 days to pick, so the way practice is scheduled and structured and how much we do on Wednesday as opposed to how much we're doing on Thursday. Does he need, when does the rest come? Certainly he's going to need rest and recovery. So we'll see how it goes this week.
Process of getting Darrington back at work today, how much would it help you if you could get him back? How much would he bring to the offense maybe in the return game?
We'll see what's there. See how he feels and on the kickoff return, we got to block better. I'm going to say it was returner error when 3 guys hit him. You know, could have Billy White Shoes Johnson back there returning if we don't block very well.
You guys see in Amani that you wound up elevating him and got a pretty decent amount of playing time with that as well.
That was, everybody on the practice squad has an opportunity to play. We're down a lot of guys, and down a few guys, and he's had been multiple and knows a few positions and can play, inside or outside.
He had kind of more snaps than Ola. Is that a similar position, or does Bledsoe do some different things that maybe?
No, I think that would be different. I think that would be different. When you move Daunic outside and you rotate with Harold and Daunic and Ola.
Ryan said something yesterday about not wanting to overuse Ola to take up special teams. Surely if Ola's rushing well, you'd prioritize the rushing over special teams for him.
Yeah, I don't know what Ryan said. I didn't read Crow's quotes. I don't think that was a situation. It's about, when you start to put other guys in there, it's how much do they know, what do they understand based on the game plan. And then, Harold and bringing Harold or Daunic off the field. And, I hope that, in some of those passing situations and certainly, we'll continue to work Ola in there. And, we like kind of what he's done.
Mike, do you have any conversations or texts with Urban through all these issues he's having either this week or even really since he's been in the NFL?
No, we haven't had any conversations since he's been in the NFL. We're focused on preparing this week and going down and trying to get healthy, trying to get ready for a new challenge.
What did you most take from your time with him, and what do you feel like made him so successful as a coach, at least at the college level?
I coached for him for 2 years at Ohio State, and I felt like I became a better coach. I was a young coach, focused on teaching, young players, and I felt like I improved at that. I learned a lot. We're at a different point in both of our careers now.
You had 2 fullbacks active, I guess, on Sunday. Well, I guess what did Torrey do?
We'll see where it goes this week. I'm not sure where we'll be with the active or inactive.
What Torrey do to maybe earn an opportunity, and how's he done with his snaps?
Yeah, he tried to play physical, and we'll see where he is this week, and helped us on special teams too.
What are some of the things that he's done just to kind of see this gradual increase to where he's basically kind of like a starter now?
Well, David is. I would imagine that if he's healthy and ready to up for the game, he'll start. He's played well. He's played fast, and we feel like we have a few guys in there that can rotate, and we got to continue to rotate them, find some roles for them, and keep them fresh, and try to continue to get some production and playmaking ability. David triggers on the football, and he plays fast and plays hard.
Are there situations where Long and Jayon fit together fine as the inside pairing? Is there any reluctance based on size?
I don't think there's any reluctance on that. I don't think there's any reluctance to play both of those guys at the same time.
I think it was announced Sunday that maybe Roger was being evaluated for concussion symptoms. He had the protocol at the start of the week.
To the best of my knowledge, yes, he still would be in the protocol. See where it goes through this week in practice.
That's good.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
There you go, Titans head coach Mike Vrabel.
With dramatic music on the way
Yeah.
out. Okay. So Roger Saffold still in the protocol. That's one to also keep a close eye on.
Yeah.
As we've been talking about, he and Ben Jones, it seems like every week, and add Taylor Lewan, those 3 guys have you can picture them in your mind. They've had to come out, go back in, they've missed some time within the games. And it does look like there's a move. There's been a move on the Stefan Gilmour front.
Yes. Ian Rappaport.
That didn't take very long, did it?
Saying, source, the Panthers traded for Stefan Gilmour.
Yep.
Interesting.
It looks like take a guess, according to Jonathan Jones.
And the Panthers have now confirmed it.
Yeah, a 6th-round pick is all it took to get Mr. Gilmour.
Wow.
But that means they take on his contract, which
right.
is, I'm not sure what.
Well, I mean, this was the last year, but there was
sizable.
a reason that New England was moving on.
Okay. So that takes care of that. The first couple hours when we heard that Gilmour was out there, we were wondering. But 6th-round pick, boom, Panthers jump in and they grab him.
16.265 is the cap number.
It's a big number. Now, it's prorated.
Yeah.
Played a quarter of the season here, but that's still pretty big. I don't know what kind of cap space the Titans have. I know they have some, but that would take up a lot of the slack.
But they would have had to. I mean, it would only, just to sign him after he had been released. That's the only way they could have done it. They weren't going to be able to trade and take that on.
Right. Okay. So
Carolina's going for it, for sure.
Yeah.
They like their chances. They see an opportunity there. A couple other Titans things, okay? As we talked about, the week-to-week thing with Jones, Saffold, and Luan. Now, we know overall the pass protection has not been good. They do run the ball well with Derrick Henry, and they run the ball well, particularly to the left side. Saffold is excellent, as Adam Archuleta pointed out, at the zone blocking scheme. They are doing that well. So not having Saffold is a big thing if that's still an issue. Now it's dated, each day. It's only Wednesday, as we know. You can be out of it by Friday, perhaps, but that's troubling. But really what's more troubling is something seems to be cropping up every week with all three of those guys. It's just, I don't know if it's bad luck. They are aging some, all three of them. At this stage of their career, it's concerning.
It's very concerning, especially with just you can't get this offensive line right. And going into the season, we talked about them, but what we talked about was, okay, who's playing right tackle? And that was it. And now it's across the board. It's been an issue because of injuries or performance or, a combination of everything. So, now, I mean, if you're without Saffold – and then that Luan's played the way he's played. Jones has been banged up. I mean, how are you going to fill all these spots? It's tough.
Another thing, I thought last year when they had to turn to Aaron Brewer had some good moments for them. He does some things well. It doesn't seem to me, and I haven't looked at Pro Football Focus grades or anything like that, but it doesn't seem like he's been as good when he's been in there this year. Is that a fair thing to toss out there?
If you want to go off Sunday, no.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and we can all focus on the one bad snap. That was a crucial mistake. But I think overall, too, I don't feel as good when he's in there. And I would even take it the next step is the depth. Now they did find a way to win the game in Seattle without Saffold and Luan for a lot of that game. So they figured it out, and they did get enough from those guys in that game. But aside from that, I'm thinking of when they had to go to Kendall Lamb, when Luan missed some time in the first week, that was a nightmare. He had a terrible stretch there. Sembrayo, I was, at this point I was wondering if you were going to see more of him because he did do a nice job before he got hurt last year. But it makes you wonder how good do they feel about him.
Quisenberry.
I mean, that's a glaring one, right? That's been a big thing. Is you don't have Quisenberry to be a backup now. He's asked to be a starter, and he's not a great starter. I think that's a very easy assessment to make.
So
Once
what's
again,
changed? We weren't having this discussion last year. What's changed?
They're all a year older.
Oh,
on the one side of the ball.
Okay.
And still can't figure out why they cut Dennis Kelly.
Well, okay, but you've got two guys coming off of ACLs, Sembrano and Lewan. They're a year older on top of that. Saffold's a year older. Jones is a year older. And then they drafted a guy in the second round that is not ready to play. So they have all of these layers that they set up. Of course, the other thing to point out is Kendall Lamb, for one reason or another, they've lost confidence in him.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you after that
Yeah.
first go-around? I mean, I hope he gets another chance and he does a better job. But all of the things that they lined up as options to put guys in, it hasn't gone well.
Was the offensive line an issue last year?
At times, but not that big.
What about the year before that?
Yeah. I mean, so is that Saffold's first year?
No.
He's been here. This is year
Saffold,
4?
This is year
I think,
4,
it's
right?
No, I think it's
Well, I
year
guess he
3.
came over right after the Rams.
Year 3, yeah.
Year 3.
So
because his start here was a little
it took
shaky.
him a little bit, yeah. And of course, the whole offense was struggling.
But that was also
the
when
year they switched from Mariota to Tannehill in the middle of the year.
Lewan was out.
He was suspended for 4 games. So the chemistry took a while. Nate Davis
took a minute to come
start.
up.
I think the line of demarcation for the expectation level of the offense is from the time they switched to Tannehill. That's when everything seemed to fall into place. Lewan was back. Saffold got in the groove. Davis became a starter. And then all of a sudden you had an offensive line that was a force. You had an offense overall that's been a force since then. But now there's some chinks in the armor. We know the issues at wide receiver, and you've got a big offensive line problem right now.
So if Saffold can't go and you put Brewer in there, I mean, that's probably what happens. But
and the other thing is, I don't know that they have competition for Quesenberry unless behind the scenes Radence is making progress that we don't really know about. It'd be interesting.
I still don't know why they wouldn't just try Sembrano. I mean, I know he's coming off the ACL,
that's a
but
good
he
question.
has played.
It's a fair question.
To me, Sembrano as the right tackle makes the most sense. Because, see, that's another thing that, they don't seem to like to do. Like, remember when Lewan went down, we were all saying, okay, well, do you move Kelly over to left tackle because he's filled in at left tackle? But they just left him at right tackle, and that's where Sembrano came in and put him there. But Sembrano's on the depth chart as the backup to Lewan. If he's the stronger one, then why not put him at right tackle? And I mean, Quesenberry can play guard. So I mean, if you're not confident in Brewer, you could try Quesenberry at guard.
This is what we
I know
remember.
we had a
really
mixing everything around.
We had a good talk with Brad Hopkins last year, illustrating how sometimes it's hard to just move guys around.
Sure.
Because you're really trying to create that continuity week after week and hope that it gels. And the issue last year was to move Dennis Kelly to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
When Lewan got hurt, and he said, you're better off just keeping him where he is and then work on that one spot. And they found a way.
Didn't they put Brewer at center and move Jones over to guard? They've played with that some at times.
I don't remember that, but you might be right on that. But, boy, after the shotgun snap, I might have some bad dreams about that in the middle of the night for a while with Brewer.
Hopefully that was just a one-time mistake.
The bottom line is Tannehill's going to have to do, and this is going to make a lot of people cringe, and probably the Titans coaches cringe because they need him upright and healthy the entire way. But Tannehill just can't stay in the pocket.
Yeah.
If they're he's going to have to be
They might have to move him more. They might have to
move.
keep using the screen game.
I don't know why he went away from that. I'll continue to bring up. I feel like it impacted his thought process because he was asked so many questions about it last week, and his coach commented on it. I feel like it was in his head, and he was not willing to take off. And he's going to have to. If this is what the offensive pass blocking is going to look like for a while until some of these guys are back in the fold or completely healthy or healthier, he's going to have to be more mobile. I mean, we saw in the Indianapolis game how effective he can be with his legs and how, I mean, he can keep drives alive. He can change the whole narrative that we've been talking about with the offensive line if he's willing to be more mobile. Look, they don't need him rushing the ball. They don't need him to turn into Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. But I'll tell you what, Tannehill is one of the more underrated running quarterbacks in the league. I don't think he gets enough props for his legs. And if this is what pass blocking is going to look like for the foreseeable future, he's going to have to be more mobile.
I think that's an interesting thing to look for, because I do think by and large too he's a pretty smart runner. He did take a couple of pops there on those long runs, and he dared to challenge. Remember, there was a couple times where it looked like, okay, I'm going to slide. I'm not sliding. I'm surprising you, and he got another 10, 15 yards on a couple of those runs against the Colts. But I think he's pretty smart at avoiding contact when he can, whereas I think Mariota was a lot more gunslinger. Like I'm not maybe doing things well in the other areas of my game, so I got to show some guts and show some heart, and he would take the hit. But I'm with you, Darren. They've got to try to loosen it up a little bit. I think screens, too, they've shown some signs of life there. They have been efficient throwing to the backs. That's been something that has been a big step forward from last year to this year. It's maybe out of just survival.
And they're including Henry in that.
They're including Henry in that. I think you're going to have to do more of it until you get these guys back.
To your point on Tannehill rushing, last year, his career year in rushing with yards was in 2014 with Miami with 311, but he had a career year with rushing touchdowns. And granted, I understand some of those were on the goal line.
They run that read option at the goal line that's been really good for him.
But he had 7 and 266 yards this year through 4 games, 14 attempts, 109 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, I agree with you.
So he's actually on pace to have more.
Yeah.
Like he could get – he's on pace for 400.
Yeah, and a lot of the rushing that he does is improvised. Like, it's not necessarily the read option or a scripted, play.
And I think we need to keep in mind it's not always a designed run. It would be you're mobile, but you're going to throw. You're throwing on the run. He's pretty good at throwing on the run.
I think he's good at that too. Yeah, he can run to the boundary and find somebody and throw it. But
so rushing stats are just one component of this, but he is a threat to run.
But I didn't think about it as much until you brought it up on Monday of, was that in his head a little bit of not trying to break out of the pocket and scramble around and the sliding and all of that. And, I definitely buy into that. I know he's speaking right now. I'd be curious if that's come up at all.
He has been hit a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like
he has no protection.
But see, I think that's where Darren's going a little bit is he's getting hit anyway. So if you're worried about him getting hit because he's running, he's getting drilled in the pocket. I mean, he's not just getting pressure; he's getting hit, even beyond the sacks. And Jim Wyatt has pointed out they're on pace to give up 72 sacks. But on top of that, he's been hit a bunch of other times as well, even when he gets rid of the ball.
That's exactly what I'm saying. If this is what he's going to do, if he's going to stay in the pocket, then good luck. I mean, good luck the rest of the way because we're going to see Logan Woodside. And can he still get hurt running the ball? Yeah, he can. But I'll tell you what, I'll take my chances with him getting out of the way and trying to make something happen with his legs and getting downfield and sliding before staying in the pocket and getting crushed because he's just going to go down. He's not going to be able to stay healthy if he takes this abuse.
Too many times guys are coming in free.
Yes.
Where they're either blowing by Quisenberry or Lewan, or they're running a little stunt and a guy. There was a play where I saw where Tannehill got smoked, and Saffold was standing by himself because they ran a twist or a stunt, and he missed the guy. Like they didn't communicate who's taking which guy. 2 guys went to one, and another guy just came right around and got a free shot. Never got touched by anybody protecting.
Well, here's the other part of that too. Like if he is able to do that more, I mean, because you're without A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, you're just giving a defense another weapon that they have to look out for. That any given play, Tannehill could break off. So I mean that's another thing that they need to just add to the arsenal.
I think we'll have Tannehill on the other side. He has just spoken to the media, and I've been seeing a lot of quotes from him. We'll see what he had to say, at least before we get out of here this hour for sure. We'll talk to Hal Gill to begin the final hour. We'll talk some Predators hockey in the 1 o'clock hour. But you're listening to Darren, Daunic, and Chase right here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. Our show is presented by Creation CBD. Creation CBD products curated for life. Chase, tell everybody where you'll be doing screwball peanut butter whiskey shots on Saturday.
Well, I'll be at the Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue, 8098 Highway 100. Chasers Tailgate, come on by. Going to have the SEC Game of the Week and beer specials, great food, all those things going on. So really looking forward to it. And, yes, I have been known to do that, so that might happen. I might have some screwball peanut butter whiskey.
Okay.
Never know.
Don't forget our NFL Game of the Week can be heard here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. That's brought to you by Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue. This week's game will be the Browns and the Chargers. Kickoff is set for 3:05. Speaking of the Browns, we're going to hear from Ryan Tannehill, but the Browns and the Titans will tell you the significance of those two teams when it comes to analytics on ESPN.com. We'll tell you about that in just a bit. But first, let's hear from Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill.
Ryan, the issues on offense, particularly in the red zone and with protection, is it one of those things that it's just getting into rhythm, cleaning up a few issues here and there, and it seems like it's been a little bit of everything at times?
Yeah, no, it's been everyone. I don't think you can pin it on any one group or any one person. I think everyone has played a part, and as a group, we just have to clean it up. We've had opportunities, and we're this far away for a lot of reasons on different plays. So as a group, we just need to be able to execute once we get down there. We're moving the ball well. We're getting first downs. We're sustaining drives, but we got to be able to score in the red zone. So it's going to be key for us, not only this week, but as we move forward, just being able to put sevens up when we get down there.
How are things coming along as far as you and Coach Todd, as far as what's up this week, what's not? You guys sorting through the plays and just figuring out what's good for the week.
Yeah, it's been great. Just working with Todd on game plans. Presenting ideas and then making adjustments off of those, and trying to find ways to continue to play good football. So, love the way our relationship is progressing, and look forward to it continuing to progress.
We saw more bunch last week create that separation. Was that something as a result of conversations you two had, or is that something he brought to you to open up, or how did that come about?
Just game planning. Watching tape and how those guys played. Thought it could help us for sure.
It didn't seem like guys were you throwing into tighter and what you guys do to get people open?
Yeah, we got to get creative and try to free some guys up. Like you said, the bunch stuff can help us a little bit, but at the end of the day, we have to be able to go out and beat the man across from us. And then, as a quarterback, it's my job to find the good matchup and put it in a good location.
Conversations like, I guess, during the following week when you have 7 sacks, you don't want to point fingers, but you got to get things fixed, and how critical maybe do you evaluate things after a week like that?
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, it's going to be tough to win a football game whenever we're taking that kind of loss in the pass game. So I think every group had a role in that. There's certainly some plays that I could have helped. There's plays that the O-line could have helped. There's plays that receivers could have helped. So again, kind of like the red zone, everyone plays a part in it, and it all works together. So as a group, just have to do our jobs a little bit better and be able to create those plays.
Become more of a challenge for you on a game like that to not start looking at the rush and making sure your eyes are downfield still the whole time? Or
no, I mean, I don't feel like I ever really look down at the rush too much. Obviously you feel it, but I try to keep my eyes downfield. That way I can see what's happening and try to get the ball out.
How much of this has been the way defenses are playing? You guys that have been different this year versus maybe last year in terms of the pressure and the sacks you're giving up?
I mean, every team has a little bit different game plan. So, I wouldn't say that going into the Jets game they played us totally different from what we expected. But they did a good job of going out and executing, and we didn't. So that led to a bunch of those plays.
How important is it, Ryan, to maybe mix in some downfield shots in the offense, and what are the most important elements you guys need in order to kind of implement that into the offense?
Yeah, I mean, explosives are huge. Just time it up. Having the right call on when you get the right defense. I think that's just luck of the draw sometimes. And we've had some good opportunities and haven't been able to make the plays. So it all, like I keep saying, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it all works together, right? We need a little bit of extra time when we're trying to push the ball down the field. We need good pocket movement and awareness by me and a good ball location, and then we need receivers to be able to get open and make a play on the football.
Tough also, I guess, when you don't have many of those plays. Those long drives can be more difficult. I guess more opportunity for a penalty or something like that to hold back the drive. But if you get a couple X plays, 20, 30, 40 yards downfield.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's just the math game, right? The more plays you run, the more consistent you have to be with your execution. If you're able to create some chunk plays, you're eating up yards without using as many plays. So definitely big for us. We've had some opportunities and haven't been able to make the plays. So have to clean that up and just be able to make them.
See from Josh.
Rush been heavy like it was last week. Do you have to maybe go to more shotgun 3-step drops with more slants and screens and those sorts of things?
I think it's a combination, right? Because you want to get the ball out, but you have to be able to give your receivers something to help them get open. So, it's a balance of trying to create rubs or bunch patterns or whatever the case may be to help them get open, but also, you can't be in a bunch every single play. So it's a balance of that.
What did you see from Josh Reynolds? Finally kind of played throughout the whole game. I know maybe had an opportunity there in the end zone, but also had some first downs that were critical.
Yeah, he made some big plays for us, so, glad he was able to come in, and I've had a lot of confidence in Josh, throughout training camp. Obviously, missed some time, but when he's been out there, he's an easy guy to throw to. It's easy to kind of see his body language, and he made some big plays, some big third down conversions for us, so it was big for him to step in.
Jaguars, bunch that you've been here, I mean, what's one thing you consistently get when you face them, and what have you seen from them this year?
They're playing good defense. You see them come out, they're flying around, they're making big plays. You see them against Cincinnati, a lot of third and longs in that first half. They're being disruptive and throwing off timing, making plays in the pass game, and really, making it tough on the offense. So for us, we have to go out and do our jobs and expect a Jaguars defense that's flying around and making plays.
AJ and Julio, they sometimes make superhuman catches and things like that. Do you find yourself having to adjust ball placement and things like that when they're not in there to throw to the other guys?
Not so much. I feel like I still, try to give my guys chances, especially down the field. In this last game, we weren't able to make a ton of those plays. But when I'm out there, I just try to trust the guys that are out there to go do their job and make plays. It's football, so guys are going to be out. And as a quarterback, a lot of times you can't hesitate or overthink things because maybe a piece is missing. You have to be able to go out, cut it loose, trust your guys to do their job and make a play.
You practice who you practice with, but you just pass Julio and AJ during the course of the week and say, hey, how you guys feeling? What do you think? Or how does that work?
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of conversations. Try to see where those guys are at. So we'll continue to have those conversations throughout this week.
Good feedback?
It's a good
quarterback. Ryan, that's a silly. I mean, come on. That's tight. Ryan Tannehill. I don't know what we learned from that. I didn't learn anything. Did you guys learn anything?
No.
Got to clean it up. Got to clean it up and got to be better. And got to be better. Everybody's got to be better.
He's trying to stay positive. He knows that there are issues, but yeah, that was not.
It was a whole lot.
Not spicy.
Not going to throw anybody under the bus. He was asked about getting sacked 7 times, and that's on all of us. That's his answer. So, I get it. I respect it to an extent, but you're up there to answer questions. So,
yeah,
answer questions. You can be a good teammate and still answer questions.
Yeah, no, look, he's going to do it. I understand. He's not going to do it. He's not going to give you anything. I probably, that's moving forward. I don't know why we would play Ryan Tannehill. You're just not going to get anything, and that's okay. That's what most quarterbacks that get it, that's what they're going to do. They're not going to give anything. They know what's being asked. They know exactly why it's being asked. We got to be better, and I got to be. It starts with me, and
coach better, play better.
Yeah, it's just right. Same old stuff. It's like, okay, we got it. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts. The question was asked. I think Terry McCormick even asked. Can you do some more screens, more quick slant? Just other things. Get involved a little bit quicker, and still, that, and but you got to give him. It just wasn't really willing to bite any apple. Just wasn't willing to really go there with anything other than, just everything's got to be better. It's like, well, okay, we get it. You've been sacked the most of any quarterback in the league, so we understand. It's got to get better. So, I don't know. The question is, will it? Will it get better? Now,
I don't know. I mean, if ever, well, I said this. I'm a broken record. I said this last week. If ever there were a week, I mean, on paper, this team's better than the Jags, but they were better than the Jets too, and they lost. So,
well, in particular, though, the Jags' defense is not as good as the Jets' defense. The Jets' defense does have some strengths. The real disappointment last week was that they didn't quite cash in early when they had the early momentum. 3 field goals. One of those has got to be a touchdown in there, and the game could have been different if
At
they even
least
just get one touchdown, 2 field goals might have even changed it a lot. Obviously, 2 or 3 would have been ball game set match early. Now this week, you've got a Jaguars defense that just doesn't have very good ratings, no matter which ones you want to look at. This is one where I think you can do some things. Now they if there's one area they've been better than the other, they have been better against the run, but part of me wants to say, well, is it because they're behind teams that haven't really needed to run that much? Now, they did have the lead in the game last week. Remember, they had trouble holding on to it against the Bengals. So that's what would have to concern you, is last week was their best effort so far. And, we should point out, Arizona's 4-0, and they did lead 19-10 in that game. They got the freak play where they ran the kickoff back, the Gus Johnson call where they had a 107-yard, field goal miss return.
Agnew.
That was great. But then they gave it right back with the bad pick six by Trevor Lawrence.
But I think Trevor's getting better.
He looked pretty good last week against the Bengals, who are 3-1.
Right. He's a rookie. He's going to learn, but he is, I think, if you really break down everything week to week, he's getting better.
So we all agree that the Jaguars are a young team trying to get better. Put all the Urban Meyer circus aside. That wasn't a bad effort last week, and the Titans are favored by how many?
4.
3, 4?
3.5, 4.
Less than they were a favorite last week?
And by the way, it's gone up since all this Urban mess.
Okay. But that's still perceived and not – so even if it's 4, it's not like this is a mismatch on paper, even as bad as the Jaguars have been at 0-4. So it shows you where the Titans are. The Titans' rankings – with the, I look at Football Outsiders and the grades and the things I was talking about earlier with explosive plays. The Titans, for a team that's been as good as they've been the last few years, they're ranked down with kind of the dregs in a lot of these categories right now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about rankings on the other side, because I do think I don't think this is something that should be blown up to the high heavens. But this is something we need to discuss. Seth Walder is ESPN Analytics, and he's put together a survey with people that do analytics for teams around the NFL, and they have ranked the teams who are really good at analytics and really use analytics, and teams that do not, and teams that are at the bottom of the league in the analytics department. And let's find out how it all shakes out. Where do the Titans rank? Are they good? Are they high when it comes to analytics? Or are they low in the league? Are they right in the middle? We'll do that on the other side to close out hour number 3 of Darren, Daunic, and Chase. ESPN 102.5 The Game. from you guys. Is this a big deal? Not a big deal. Seth Walder, ESPN Analytics. Second year he's done this. 13-question survey of the league's analytic minds, just to get a better understanding of kind of, the quantitative landscape and how it's evolving, how the league is incorporating analytics. And they sent a survey to an analytics person with each team. So 32 surveys were sent out. 22 responded. Now, some staffers left additional comments, and others were called by ESPN for some follow-ups. But participants were allowed to select their own team where it applied, and questions were asked with the understanding that they don't have to have perfect information about other teams. They were also granted anonymity where they could speak freely. And so of the 22 teams that did respond to this, Willie, I think you've seen – I don't know, Chase, you've probably already cheated by now and seen. Who do we think is the best team in the league when it comes to analytics? The most advanced team in the league when it comes to analytics?
The most advanced team, according to this, is the Browns, which is probably not a total surprise if you think about it, because going back, remember Paul DePodesta, who is in the movie Moneyball, right? That's the guy. That's Billy Bean's guy. He ended up being hired by the Browns a few years later to try to get that going. So the foundation had been laid.
According to this, the Browns and the Ravens are the two best teams in the league. So same division, which is pretty interesting.
Now, I think we have to hesitate before we say best, because it just means they're more leaning on these things, more advanced.
Using analytics more than anybody else.
And I think in this day and age, I think we know analytics is becoming more and more a part of every sport. Every sport.
To me, it's a bigger deal if you're not than if you are. Where that was completely the opposite. I don't know. You give me the time frame. A decade ago, it was like, you're doing what again?
Right.
Now
it's moving fast.
Yeah.
The influence of analytics.
It's already been moving
and that's
fast.
that's why this is interesting to me. I'll tell you what jumped out. They polled these guys, these 22 analytics people in the game, and anonymously, and they said which team in the NFL is the least analytically advanced. The Titans got twice as many votes as any other team.
They were the
8.
worst team. The least
worst
advanced
is
team
subjective, but least analytically advanced. So they got 8 votes. Now, let's read you what they said about this. Being the most analytically arcane might be hard to spot relative to the competition, but there's one way a team can stand out in this area: staffing. And that seemed to be a factor for why the Titans took the category. Until recently, according to the article, the Titans were the only team, to their knowledge, without a full-time analytics worker, singular, in their football operations department. Now, let's put that in perspective. Most teams now have a staff.
Department.
They have a staff of people.
Department.
It's not one guy sitting in an office. It's usually a group of people that are constantly looking for an edge. They're looking for them. They have a department for this.
Hasn't Vrabel been asked about this before?
I'm not sure. I'd like to hear him talk about this some. Now, it says here in the article that changed when the Titans hired Matt. I don't know if I'm going to say this right. I am Marino. I am Marino. It's like Marino, but it's IAM before that.
August.
And this was in
August.
August.
Just a couple of months ago.
According to this, up until this current season, they never had anybody hired specifically to look at analytics. Now, they make this caveat. It doesn't mean that they're just completely blowing off analytics. I've heard Mike Vrabel from time to time refer to analytics. But I don't know that I think this would tell you they're certainly not on the cutting edge of trying to look at this. And Darren, didn't you think this was interesting?
I thought it was, if you're going to state the example,
yes,
like
the
this
example
was
they used.
The red flag, and it's like, oh my. They used the playoff game last year here against the Ravens, the 4th and 2 play, from the which we all talked about, right? I mean, that was from the 40-yard line. And it said that was a huge red flag for the Titans, that they are not in tune with analytics. Let's just say that.
And the more
I'm paraphrasing, it doesn't say that. It does say that play was the red flag that the Titans seem to be behind everybody else when it comes to analytics.
And the more you watch football now, college and pro, the more you see that these are analytically driven decisions of when to go for two, when to go for it on fourth down, are two very, very
more
good
than
examples.
just the sheet.
More than the sheet, and certainly more than the quote-unquote old school
gut feeling.
The field position game.
Right, or just,
like
whatever.
If it's fourth down, we're punting, unless it's way down and we're behind. Now it's like, regardless of the situation, a lot of times, if it's 4th and 3 or less in the middle of the field, you're going for it, and your team is conditioned to realize that you're going to go for it. So that's just one element of where analytics can come in, but it does definitely have you thinking, what factor are we seeing now for this team? What does that mean? None of us are going to be able to tell you 100% what this means, but it is something to note.
Well, and my whole thing is, I'm not always going to be, well, if the whole league's doing it, you should do it. But I think in this situation,
it's like every sport.
It's all of sports is
okay.
doing it.
You would be missing out if you're not. If
It's
you're not at
just
least
the
looking
league.
into
Right.
these.
It's all of sports.
So that's my thing. All of sports are doing it, and they're just now addressing it. I'm pretty sure it was either last year or the year before, because it was a fourth down situation that we talked about where it was like, what are you doing? And Vrabel was asked, do you have somebody that can kind of help you through those situations analytically? And he kind of danced around the answer with it. So I know it's come up.
That.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I know it's come up
I kind
before.
of remember that. I feel like you're onto something, but although I'm just specifics, I'm not going to remember. But I feel like you're right on that. We can look that up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's come up before, and and so this is telling. I mean, the fact that it wasn't even the off season that they addressed it; it's August that they have addressed it.
Yeah, it wasn't the beginning. It was the end of the off season.
Yeah,
they had a staffer that would be attached to anything related to analytics. Is honestly mind-blowing.
That is a revelation.
But is it surprising? Are you surprised? Are you surprised
if you
to know
want
that?
me to be, if you want me to be truthful, of course not.
I'm not surprised.
Look, if it wasn't, how many times did you hear me on this show over the years say that their facilities, when it comes to NFL standards, is about the level of high school?
Yeah,
like they're addressing that right now, by the way, as we're in 2021. But you go around the league, they were already miles behind everybody, and just when it comes to facilities in the NFL. So we should be surprised if they don't have someone on staff.
But is that
not even that,
was it an issue of resources, or was it an issue of just by choice?
I think it's by choice. That's what I think.
And I would say to that, I am 100% for challenging analytics when they're presented to you and having a discussion behind the scenes on, okay, here's what we're bringing to the table from the analytics department. Here is our old school view with the eye test. Let's put it together and come up with where we're going to advance, where we're going to use this. Because you hear plenty of coaches say analytics don't tell you this and this and this. And that is completely worthy.
Oh, you would hear that from me. I mean, that.
Is
We've
worthy.
had this discussion
yes.
a ton.
If you're just blindly looking at analytics, you are not using them correctly. But there's a merit, there is a benefit to what these things can do for you. And if you have one person in there that you just hired in August, that's pretty behind the curve, even for some teams that were late getting on board. That's really late.
Really, really late. I mean, it just tells you that. Well, I mean, it tells me that it had no presence whatsoever in your building.
Yeah,
True.
no,
So you do wonder what are they missing out on here, if this is the case?
Well, they're just behind the 8 ball. I mean, they're behind.
And what is the process?
Else.
What does this guy do every week too? As he just gets comfortable. He just got here. In August. So how is he being used right now?
I guess my question would be, how could any professional sports franchise – that's why I said that, Chase, when you brought it up. I was like, this is not about the league. This is not about the NFL. This is about anybody that is in professional sports, that is a professional sports franchise, whether it's soccer. Remember we had a guy that we used to work with. He was an intern that got hired away by Nashville SC to do analytics. Did he not? right?
Absolutely.
The guy that
He
we
did.
got to know pretty well. Okay, the soccer team in town hired a kid, a great kid, a smart kid that used to work for us to do analytics for them. If you're any sports franchise, we know now it is prevalent in all sports. Everybody, like analytics is a discussion piece. Willie, I'm with you. Look, we've had these discussions hundreds and hundreds of times over the years, and I'm more, old school eyeball, but I am also not willing to say you cannot, like, there is like you said, there
There's
can
a
be
place
a
for it.
marriage.
Yeah.
It can be a relationship where there's a balance. There's a balance of analytics and numbers and stats and nerd stuff, and there's a balance of old school eye test, gut feeling, all the other
Sure.
stuff you want to throw in the other pile, but they can work together.
I'll also
And
give you
need
another.
both of them.
I'll give you another aspect that I wonder how this is affecting, and it's easy for me to take shots because they're at a low point right now. Is the draft?
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
would analytics somewhere maybe help their success rate in the draft the last couple years?
How could you push
It's just
back on that?
we're just throwing this out as a question, not knowing the answer, but I would think it can't hurt.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll come back with a big tall fella, Hal Gill, to begin the final hour. That's next. Final hour, Darren, Daunic, and Chase on this Wednesday afternoon. Hope everybody's having a good day to this point. Let's talk to the big fella, Hal Gill, a.k.a. Skillsy. So we switch gears, talk a little pucks, a little ice, a little nets, sticks. Let's talk a little hockey. Hal, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. The sun came out for me. I'm pretty happy about it.
Especially with some developments in Boston last night. Did that put a little extra pep in your step there, Hal?
You know what? I'm not a huge MLB fan until the Red Sox play the Yankees, and then I become the biggest diehard Red Sox fan you'll ever hear of, and I was wicked excited about that one last night.
Oh, yes. Got a little wicked in there.
Wicked awesome.
I'm going to start in a weird place with you just because we were talking about it.
Oh, Lord.
That kind of scares me.
I know.
Can we not go to a weird place?
You need a beer first.
You know, we know your thought. You played in the league for over 16 seasons, over 1,000 games. You're an old school guy. You've got that old school mentality. That's what we love about you, right? Hard-nosed grit. Bring your hard hat to it. But we were talking about analytics, and there's an article that came out on ESPN.com, and they sent out a survey, a 13-question survey to every team in the NFL, and it was, anonymous, where you could speak freely and just basically rank the teams and answer the questions and speak on who's good in the league with analytics and who's not good. Titans were dead last. In fact, in this article, it says they just hired their first staffer that has anything to do with analytics in August. So the Titans were dead last in the league. Carolina, who the Predators just played last night, we know they're very advanced in analytics. Predators have done a good job of that. You started off in this after your playing career in Florida. They've also used analytics as well. What is the right balance? Where are you, Skillsy, on how much to crunch the numbers and use the stats, and how much, do you use the eyeball test and the gut feeling and, what you see and what you know? How would you answer that?
It's a tough question to answer because there's so many different levels of analytics that are used, because there's the GM that's got to sign a player based on what? Based on whether he likes the guy, based on his analytics. There's a coach that's got to implement a system and use a system that would reflect what his team analytics looks like. So he's looking at that. Then there's the player that's got to try to boost his analytics. How do you make your analytics better so you're a more attractive player? So there's so many levels of that. I have a bitter taste in my mouth because I was in Montreal and they told me, hey, they're thinking of moving you. They don't really like your game. And I said, what am I doing wrong? And the assistant coach told me that my numbers were down. And I said, what numbers? And he said, I don't really know. And I said, so how do I get my numbers? How do I get my analytics to be better? And they said, this is a direct quote. I really don't understand the numbers. They send me a sheet in the morning, and it has all these numbers on it. I don't really understand what they mean, but your numbers were not good. So how do you handle that as a player? How do you handle that as a coach? How do you make your numbers better? So I do think there's a place you can research and deep dive into each one of your players and see who plays well in this situation, who plays well in that situation. The combinations of this guy has good numbers when he's playing with this guy. And if that is his centerman, he's going to give you good numbers. And so as a coach, I think you have to exhaust everything, every amount of information you can get. But you certainly can't make game-time decisions off analytics because it's a human game. It's a game of human errors. And some guys are playing well and other guys are having a bad night. And so you kind of have to go off of what your gut is in that situation. So I think there's a healthy balance, but it certainly gets foggy when you try to coach the actual player based on analytics. It just doesn't add up. So I'm not sure if I answered your question or just made that a lot more foggy, because I'm confused now, and I don't even know what I'm saying anymore.
Well, I think you're making a great point. Is taking it from the room where the people are compiling these numbers and marrying it to how you're coaching your players and how you, the player, is absorbing this and using this is everything. And I do think they've come a long way since you were playing, Hal. Not to say you're that removed from the game, because you're not.
So I get it.
You know what I mean? Like I do think it's evolved since that time when you were in Montreal. So we're talking 10 years ago, right?
That would have been my comment, Willie. Like, I hope in today's game, conversation between player and coach has gotten better than just, I don't know, I'm
honestly,
looking at a
if you
sheet
can't
and
do
it doesn't
that,
look good.
If you can't do that, the numbers are really useless.
Right. Right.
If you can't help the player, if you're out there and you don't understand what they're doing and the coach doesn't understand, then it really is of no use.
Yeah.
And so that's where there's been a lot of work that has to be done. How do we translate this? How do we get this to where it actually helps our guys?
So let's talk about that then, Skillsy, with
you know what the bottom line is? You know what? Here's the difference, and this is where a guy behind a computer who can punch numbers in and get results out and give you numbers back. That guy has never gone into a corner against the guy that he fought 2 nights ago and that punched him in the face and knocked him out. And so if you get punched in the face and knocked out and the guy is coming in on the forecheck, you're going to play that very different than you would against a guy that you just punched and knocked out 3 games ago. You know what I mean? That is not going to be an analytical number. And so you have to make room for that human element. And if you're talking to a guy who's a playmaker and he makes plays and feels really confident playing against this line, that's not going to show up on analytics. And I know I've had this fight with many people, and I just there's a good balance between using the analytics, but you also have to let it go and let the players play the game.
Isn't that a little bit of what Rocco Grimaldi's probably dealing with? The analytics, the advanced stats have said, with the puck, offensively, scoring punch, all that stuff is good. Gets the check marks. It's the other stuff right away from the puck that's going against him. And I'm sure those are the conversations that the coaches have had with Rocco, is when he doesn't have the puck. And to your point, Hal, you're probably hoping, and at least I'm hoping too, that conversations like that, okay, if you're going to then show the player, these are what the numbers are telling us, okay, then what's the plan? Like, how do we make that better? How do we get you to make those numbers look better in your favor? And that's where you hope in 2021, if you're going to show a player some numbers and say, hey, these are what the analytics are saying about you in a certain category, and then here's how we're going to attack that to help you and help us.
Right. Well, that's the hard part. And we look at going into training camp. You look at Igor Afanasyev. I love his game, and he's got a heck of a shot. He had 3 goals in camp, and he looks fantastic. I'm sure Coach Hines he can pick apart his defensive game over and over again. He's looking at video. He's breaking it down. Philip Tomasino scored a huge goal last night. That's great that he scored a goal, but what about the rest of his game? There's so much more than just your numbers and what you do. It's about you look at Tanner Jeannot. I don't care what his numbers are. If he goes out and gets a big hit in the first, that's a game changer, right? That's a big thing for me when he comes back to the bench and every guy on the bench feels about 2 inches taller because he just went out and dummied someone. If Yakov Trenin knocks out Zdeno Chara, everyone on that bench, their analytics just went through the roof because you're invincible at that point. And so there's a lot more to the game than those numbers. And with Rocco's situation, he's got to worry about his complete game, not just his offensive numbers, not just his defensive numbers. It's a total composition of everything he's done.
If we were comparing 2 great stories last year, Tanner Jeannot and Matthew Olivier, to this point, speaking of this, don't you think right now Tanner Jeannot has the edge because of kind of what we're talking about? He's become more the complete player. Like, they both burst onto the scene, Skillsy, with, their hits and their grit and, that sandpaper mentality, stuff that we were talking about, and, what they were doing, the energy, and all that stuff is great. But Tanner Jeannot has added some more extra elements to it. He's become a little bit more of a complete player. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, one of Willie's favorite stats that I always bring up is the get it done nativity.
That's a skillsy analytic right there.
Both of those guys rank high on the get it done nativity, where they get it done. The bottom line is they affect the game. They go out and they're physical and they're hard. I do think, from what I've seen, Tanner Jeannot has that offensive upside, and so it's going to be interesting. You can take the beast line and who fits in on that beast line. You have 4 guys that really could be part of the beast line with Sissons, with Trennan, Olivier, and Jeannot. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jeannot move up in that lineup and play more of a skilled role where he can use that physicality to set up and create space for maybe a Gronlund or a Cunnin. You give Cody Glass a little more space when he's got a guy like Tanner Jeannot out there. Maybe Tomasino plays with him, and a young kid coming into the league has a little more room to move. And when he has it's kind of like having a nice warm blanket on your wing, right? It feels nice and secure, and you feel safe when you're out there playing with a guy like Olivier, like Jeannot, and maybe Jeannot moves up into that position.
We're talking to Hal Gill, and we're talking Predators. Last night, for people that maybe didn't see it, the Predators did go to Raleigh, North Carolina, and win in overtime on Philip Tomasino's game winner. And it was both teams used closer to what you're going to see on opening night. So it was interesting, and of course ironic they were not able to win in Carolina last year. But let's put that in perspective, is with the fact that you saw more of NHL rosters last night, where do you weigh the overall performance in terms of being able to go there and get a win?
It was tough. It was a man's game last night. It was. I was expecting, when you put in a bunch of veterans in the regular season, usually you get, I'll take the shot and I'll loop away. I'm not going to really drive the net too hard. It was a really good test, and I think Pete Weber called it. It's not just a game; it was a contest, and there was a lot of battles going to the net, and that's the way Carolina plays. We know that. I was expecting it to be a little bit softer in the preseason, but I think the history between those two teams kind of amped it up, and it became a pretty good battle. So that being said, there was so little space to move that it wasn't a really great showcase for the offensive side, but the defensive side was fun to watch. You have guys like Fabro, Carrier, Jeremy Davies going out battling for a spot and trying to prove their worth, and they had guys like Aho and Svechnikov barreling down on them. They weren't shying away. So it was a good test. It'll be interesting to get John Hines' take on it after he watches film, watches all the little plays. Can guys get the puck in tight areas and move them? Because there was a lot of turnovers because of the tight checking. So, I'd love to sit down and be a fly on the wall in the coach's room, just letting them bounce it around. Like, who deserves to be here? Afanasyev has been good. Tomasino gets the game winner. Like, do both of those guys get a shot at playing on opening night, or is it just one of them? There's just so many decisions that they have to make, and I thought guys played well, but until you break down the video with a coach and really talk about what their game plan was and how they executed it, you don't really know.
All right, let's hit you with another one that falls into this is more maybe a little bit intangible and maybe not reflective in the analytics, but also what impact this has on the game. It's very clear that over the last 2 years, there's been a conscious effort to get bigger, tougher. You go back to that Winter Classic, which we were all at, down on the ice. They got physically manhandled by the Stars. They got beat up. Ryan Ellis got the concussion. Chase got beat up by Howe. But I think if you take a look, there's been an effort. The roster is much bigger now. You talk about the beasts, the Oliviers, the Janots. Cody Glass is 6'3". Phil Myers they bring in at 6'5". Even Igor Afanasyev is 6'4". The average size of the players that they're using, and of course out the door, go Ryan Ellis, go Victor Arvidsson. So collectively they're a bigger, tougher team? What impact are you seeing there? How on the ice?
Then I'd argue faster. And
So yeah, without obviously you can't have a bunch of plodding guys who can't skate. So this is hopefully without sacrificing a lot of speed.
Yeah, they can move, and that's the impressive part. Being down on the ice when we did that live stream, you could see these guys, they're fast. And, when we're up in our perch up above Bridgestone, you go, wow, these guys are good players. But when you're down there, you see the size of them. Then you see the speed, and it all comes together. So it was kind of a slap in the face at how big these guys are for me. But, I feel like the NHL is such a copycat league. And you talk about, Pittsburgh Penguins had a good run where they were fast. They had smaller guys, and they would buzz around the ice. And they had their big dogs, of course, and Crosby and Malkin. But a lot of it was just team speed. And we played in that whatever division that was that made up division last year, where you had big teams. You had Florida was big. Carolina, of course, was big. Tampa played a big game. And you go back to Dallas. Dallas has a big physical team. And so it's kind of a copycat league. You play against those teams long enough, you realize we got to get bigger. And so I think that's just a natural adjustment. I think the NHL is tracking towards that way where you need that size, and it went away from it for a while. And, that's why I couldn't play. I couldn't keep up with all the little team speed. And now I wish I was coming back now because I feel like everyone's getting bigger. The only problem is they're still as fast, and that's the impressive part. And so I think the Preds are on track with what the NHL is moving to, and I think that reset from David Poyle was a competitive rebuild to catch up to that size and that speed.
Hal Gill is with us, Predators radio analyst, does some work on the TV side as well. This team right now has 9 defensemen. They have carried 8 in the past, could go to 7, depends on however you want to look at the rest of the roster. But Jeremy Davies has been somebody to pay attention to in training camp. Do you think that he's done enough? You got a cup of coffee here last year due to injuries, but has he done enough to make this roster for opening night? What have you seen?
I know. I feel for him. I think he's got a great offensive upside, and he can move the puck. He can skate. He's not a big guy, so he's got to defend well and be positionally good, and I think he is that. It might be just a numbers game. I don't know if he slides into a spot right now. Do you want to have a younger guy like that in a 7 or 8 spot? Or do you want to let him go and continue to develop his game in the minors? That's where I think he is at. But he certainly showed he can compete. Offensively, he's awesome. Defensively, he was good and solid. He was blocking shots last night. He took one right in the ribs, and it was a gutsy effort. So he was leaving it out on the ice, which is exactly what you want to see out of him. I just don't know if the numbers will keep him around.
Typically, you've seen, whether it was Peter Laviolette or now John Hines, with defensemen, they like the right-left combination and keeping it that way. From a defenseman's point of view, if you're playing on your offhand, just how difficult is that, even if you're trying to get the best 2 players matched up together?
Yeah, it's different for every guy. I was on the left side, and there's no way I was going to the strong side. The right side of the ice was not for me. I had a harder time pivoting that way. So I stayed on the left. My first partner was Ray Bork, who's a left-hand shot, and he wanted to play on the right all the time, which is perfect for me because I got to play with him. And so it depends on the player. I think some guys can transition and flip back and forth. Other guys will fall in, and it doesn't necessarily worry about left or right until you get to the power play. That's when the power play, you need a right-hand one-timer or you need a left-hand one-timer. That changes the story. So, I think there's a lot that can be worked out, but it comes down to an individual preference.
Last tune-up before the regular season, Saturday afternoon, and then it's on.
Going to be And I got to tell you, I just went through Bridgestone Arena. They had a tasting. It was fantastic. Nick Barnowski set it all up, and it was fantastic. We got to try food. We took a tour of the arena.
Yeah.
I was there with Lindsay Rowley, just, devouring food left and right. And now we're getting a tour of Pete and Terry's, which is, I don't know if anyone's been to Pete and Terry's, but it's fantastic down here.
Yeah, we've been there a time or two.
It's a good spot.
Yeah,
it's a good
we've
spot.
been there a time or two. Yeah.
Hey, the new menu is fire at Bridgestone. So.
Oh, nice.
I hope you guys enjoy it.
What was there any example, Hal, that you sampled today that you're like, wow, this is good stuff? I know that traditionally and we missed out on this because, of course, our time of the show. Otherwise, the three of us would have enjoyed partaking in this.
And have done in the past.
And have done in the past. So
Yes.
any items that you'd like to showcase today that you have consumed?
There was a hickory barbecue cheeseburger that was deadly.
Oh, man.
There was I think Sean Henry posted a picture of a 2-foot long slap shot sub or whatever it was called. It was fantastic. Tomatoes and pickles to top it off. A lot of good food. A huge fan of the Bearded Iris new bar that's in there with Disc and Cider. That's a bright spot, and I may go visit it later and just keep going to visit it. But there's a lot of good spots in there, so everyone's got to come out Saturday night. It's going to be awesome.
I will just say this, Hal. I'm sure you've seen it by now, but the quote retweet by Nash with to Lindsay's additional tweet, I will just tell you right now, I'll admit it openly on radio. I peed right down my leg. I was laughing so hard, I peed right down my leg. I have no problems admitting that. Yeah,
They have no comment. Okay,
You know
it's
what?
probably a smart move.
I was worried about Christy on that one.
And by the way,
don't know.
when have you ever said that, right? Ever in
Yes.
your life you were worried about Crispy?
Yes, because we witnessed this live. We witnessed it when it took place. We were in the area when this went down.
Oh my gosh, I could not. I responded to that tweet from Nash, and I had a GIF that was a guy saying he's laughing so hard he's like, I can't breathe. I mean, it was just tremendous.
Well, on so many levels, Terry Crisper, he's an old man. He shouldn't have to be exposed to that on a physical and emotional level. And then the follow-up from Nash, God bless Nash. He's a good kitty, but, maybe stay in his lane a little bit. Maybe push it too far.
Are you saying too soon? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe too soon.
Just maybe.
Skillsy, love it. Appreciate it. Thanks for doing this. We'll see you Saturday.
Bye, Skillsy.
All right. Thanks for having me on, guys. Cheers.
Hal Gill, signature cheers on the way out.
Oh, it's so good.
That was, I mean, if you haven't seen it,
well, I sent it to you guys.
You have missed out.
Had you seen it before I sent it to the group text, or was that when you?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at the timeline of when I responded to it and when you sent it to us. I don't know, Chase.
Because I saw that and I was taking a sip of a drink. That drink went everywhere.
When did you send it?
It was last night. I mean, it was during the baseball game or still during the hockey game that I sent it. But
I don't remember.
I spit my drink out. I was laughing so hard.
I had to sit there and stare at it for like 5 minutes before I could stop laughing. I couldn't do anything until I stopped laughing, and I just
I sent it at 8:50 p.m. That's when I sent it.
Do they call that the Urban Meyer? I mean, I peed down my leg. I peed down my leg. I was laughing so hard.
Hey, Nash has some zingers. Okay,
That's why he's going to go into the Hall of Fame.
I voted for him.
I voted for him. That is going on right now. You can continue to vote for the Mascot Hall of Fame if you.
Okay, I need to do this. I need to get on this.
Jump in.
All right,
We got to
let's
get
come
in there.
back and discuss this team on the other side as you listen to Darren, Daunic, and Chase. But first, Chase, you've got a word about BetMGM.
Yes, I do. You want to get your payout before the game's out? This is how you do that. Yeah, I know, right? Place a moneyline wager on any Thursday night football game, and if your team is up by 10 or more at halftime, you will win. That's a full payout for only half the game, no matter what happens the rest of the way. Simply go to your BetMGM account, opt in each week to the Thursday night halftime payout promotion. Want to continue wagering in the third quarter? Keep it rolling with BetMGM's extensive live betting options. If you need to hit the sack early, use your winnings to place a one-game parlay on Sunday and go for gridiron glory. If you're new to BetMGM, download the app today and see how you can turn halftime into cash time. Make a moneyline bet on Thursday night, and if your team is up by 10 or more, you'll win at the half. It's only at BetMGM. Opt-in required. You must be 21 years or older, must be in Tennessee. Visit BetMGM.com for a full list of terms and conditions. For problem gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
Hey, you can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Let's give away some tickets to the final preseason game Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock puck drop, Preds and Hurricanes, and then it is on for the regular season. But right now, all you have to do is answer this question to Elijah, who is manning the board at our game studios. And if you can do that, you'll win a pair of tickets to see the Preds and Hurricanes Saturday afternoon at Bridgestone Arena. Remember, like I said, a 3 o'clock puck drop. The number is 615-737-1025. 615-737-1025. That's our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Who had the power play goal, the lone power play goal last night for the Preds? Who had the lone power play goal last night for the Preds? Answer that correctly, and we'll see you in the building Saturday afternoon. All right, before we get into this discussion, let's quickly get to Joshua, who's been waiting patiently, who wants to weigh in on the analytics. He also has called in on our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joshua, the floor is yours.
Hi there. How's it going, guys?
Good.
So I just wanted to weigh in on this. It's really interesting. I work at Oracle, who are obviously coming down to Nashville pretty soon, actually, and we work in more the business area for analytics and insights and things like that. And I think what's happening, and it's really interesting that you brought this debate up, what's happening is that I think that right now in sport generally, we're seeing as an industry it lag behind other industries that have successfully developed analytics. Right now in sport, analytics is seen as a competition and another way of doing things to the old school, where a lot of other industries and businesses have kind of got to that point and evolved the thinking where it's now seen as, hey, how do we make the best decision we can? And from that, we need as many data points as possible, where a coach's 20-year history, a player's motivation is just as important as his percent of, carries into the zone and things like that. And I think what we've seen really in the Premier League in the UK and in baseball is that analytics is actually seen as a way of driving a better decision rather than it being a standalone topic on its own. And some of those best teams are actually using it not reactively, saying, hey, there's a 70% chance of this fourth down being converted. That's kind of useless to you, really, because it doesn't really dictate whether you want to go for it or not. But what it should be actually used for is hey, what's the best play that we should run if the coach wants to go for it? And when you start using insights analytics to drive decisions as opposed to react to them, you start getting tremendous success. And it just feels like certain sports areas are just a little bit behind the curve on that right now.
Interesting. Now, did you say you work for Oracle?
Yes, correct, yes.
Do you live here or you're moving here?
Yes, I'm down here, yeah. I moved here as part of the pandemic and love it. Got into hockey. Hadn't actually even really watched it or played it or anything like that before, but got into it here, and I'm fascinated by that combination of analytics and sport, and then how that can coincide.
Excellent. Hey, don't be a stranger to the show. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, great
no
stuff.
No problem at all. Thanks for the time, guys.
That was some insightful stuff right there. That's a good point. It's not looking at a chart saying, hey, in this situation, the analytics are saying you need to go for it. The numbers are in your favor. It's actually going a little bit deeper dive and saying, okay, if you get to that point and you decide you want to go for it, here's the play that gives you the best shot of converting that fourth down play or whatever. You're going to have discussions at some point, whether it's during the course of a game or whether it's keeping guys on a roster or moving forward with a guy, where it's like right down the middle. Like you need somebody to stand up in the room and make a point for one side or the other, right? Well, maybe that's where analytics come into play, where, okay, we seem like a house divided on Afanasiev or Tomasino right now today. It's like we've made all these great points for both sides. We need one more thing. Well, actually, let's pull out this sheet. Analytics show us, and I'm just throwing that into. I wonder if that does come into play with teams.
Oh, it very much comes into play with teams.
And say, okay, well, if analytics tell us in this many categories it weighs a little bit heavier right now on this player, then we'll start off with this player and go from there.
I think it's a facet of it that will be one of several things. And I think what's good is that it's not just hey, player A scored the game-winning goal last night. Hal was sort of getting at this. Tomasino, big moment for him. He scores a goal to win a game on the road in a game that had a lot of NHL players. He looked like he belonged. He made a big play. That should influence what's going on, his evaluation.
Sure.
But it's only one of – it's also, like Hal was saying, what about let's break down the film. How did he do in the areas from the coaching standpoint that we've been working on him with? And there's analytics. You can go to any site. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Natural Stat Trick. You can look at how his grades were from that standpoint. But that's just numbers. It's putting it all together with your complete evaluation. But analytics are part of the equation.
Yeah, I feel like that too and I know this is prevalent in all sports, but hockey especially, you have to look at what's going on beyond the obvious play. And the obvious play being a scoring moment, scoring a goal, whatever. Like what are you doing the rest of the time? And that was something that we talked about quite a bit with Kevin Fiala and his development. We've talked about it with Ellie Tolvanen and his development of what are you doing away from the play? Are you doing your job in making – and what do your numbers look like away from the play?
Within the system of the team.
Yeah.
That's why, like baseball, there's been arguably a total takeover from analytics. And it's taken away some of the aesthetics of what we love about the game. It's taken away a lot of the action as a result. Not because they want it to, but that has just been determined this is the best way to win. And it's much easier to apply analytics when it's batter versus pitcher. But the hard part is in football or hockey when you have all of these players trying to mesh together. Your analytics could be one thing one place. I would put soccer in this too. And then you get to a new group of people and it gets mixed together. Like how are you meshing in? That's the difficulty of applying analytics in sports like that. Basketball would be thrown in there too. And basketball, we know analytics is a huge part of it now. And if you're the old school guy that's still saying, hey, man, I don't want to hear it, then you probably don't have a job right now.
Yep.
Like they will move on from you so fast, it'll make your head spin.
Lionel Hollins with the Memphis Grizzlies.
That's a great example.
By the way, he had a whole lot of success.
They were winning.
And they were like, man, we need you to embrace analytics more. And he's this old school guy like, I'm just going to embrace my eyes and what I've done. I played the game and I've coached the game. We're winning with me. And, they did not see eye to eye. And that was the reason he was out. And it wasn't because they weren't having success with Lionel Hollins. They absolutely had success with him.
And I think most coaches now have learned, I can't be that guy. I have to get with the times here.
But
it's still important to have that. I think that still ingredient of old school is important.
Well, let me just say this.
That old school has got to mesh.
How successful has Memphis been since they got rid of Lionel Hollins?
Not very.
Well, exactly.
That's not. I'd have to go back. I don't know the history of the Grizzlies. They had some winning seasons. How has life for the Grizzlies
been since Lionel Hollins?
Let's go to our NBA desk. Elijah?
Until the last 2 years, not good.
Okay, but after they moved on from Hollins, they still had a lot of those guys that was it Jaeger?
And they made no runs at all. None.
Mm-hmm.
And they did with Hollins. Did they not go to the conference championship game with him?
I have to look.
They did. They made it to the conference finals.
That was Hollins was still the coach?
Yes.
Yeah.
And things went downhill quickly after Hollins. And I'm just simply saying, I'm trying to be a balance because it's not like I poop at all. I understand its importance, but it doesn't always work that way. I think probably that's what gets Dusty Baker in and out of jobs. He doesn't stay. He's probably old school. I could totally see that with Dusty
But there
Baker.
has to be a balance.
But guess what?
But he's with the most analytically driven team ever in the Astros.
I know. That's right. But everywhere Dusty Baker goes, all he does is win.
Yeah.
So there is something to that. And I don't know that for a fact that he doesn't embrace analytics because you're right. He's with the Astros, and they are heavy-driven analytics.
Well, he probably
his magic touch though is the human side.
Well, and that's fine. Here's this is what I think makes the teams separates the really really good teams from the not is you can have the old school guy that goes on feel and gut. And then and let him do that. And knowledge. But then you also have the analytics guy that helps balance it out. There can be a balance. They both can work. They both can go hand in hand, and you've seen it. It's just – and you have to have a little bit of both.
The ultimate example that got everybody buzzing last year was last year with the World Series and the left-hander. Who did they take out? He was like just cruising along, dominating.
This was the Rays.
The Rays.
Yep.
Blake Snell. He was absolutely mowing him down, and they took him out because it was a analytics-driven
thing.
decision,
and what happened?
And there was no feel. Yeah. Yep. So that's the classic intersection of the two.
Was sending Judge home analytics feel or gut?
I don't think you can use analytics on that decision. That's still human. That's a
Willie,
decision.
that's actually a fantastic example right there. That is just simply going, hey, we go by the book, and the book says get him out. And somebody going on the field, if you're watching the game or a part of the game, you're there in the dugout. Somebody that goes on the field is never taking him out of that game in that spot because he's dominating.
But teams have to be, in the head coach especially, in whatever the sport is, you have to be willing to listen to the analytics, but then you have to also know that if your gut says, you know what? I know what the sheet says. I know what the analytics say.
This is not the time for
I got to go with my gut on this. And sometimes you're going to be right, and sometimes you're going to be wrong.
Yep.
And the Rays, they're back in the hunt. They're back in there. They're
going to have a tough
without Blake Snell.
It's okay, though, and I understand. They're saying, hey, this is the model that's gotten us to this point when everybody says we should never be here because we don't spend like everybody else. We're not aggressive in free agents. We don't have the big-name players. And everything is said we should never be in this spot. We're supposed to be irrelevant. And this model has made us relevant, and look where we are because of it. But it's okay to also say, yes, all this has worked for us, but in this particular spot, it's okay to say, you know what? Our gut's saying stick with Snell. He's carving them up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Stay with him. He's not being taxied. He doesn't have a high pitch count. It's not like he's at 135 pitches. Let's keep rolling with him. And they didn't. And that's just one where you go, sometimes it's okay just to say, you know what? It's been good for us, but in this particular spot, we're just going to go with our gut, and we're going to keep rolling with Snell.
The other thing too is say they keep Snell in and against what they say is their better judgment, and he gets rocked. I mean, you're going to live with that
right
the same way. It's we knew we probably should have because this is what this tells us. We strayed away from what works, which is why I've never thought that was a horrific decision by Kevin Cash to begin with, because he would not be able to live with the decision to keep him in if everything else that they've used all season long told him not to do it.
Yeah, yep, fair point. Congratulations to Shane Wink. Shane was the caller that called in and told Elijah Campbell it was Matt Duchene who had the power play goal last night. Shane, congratulations. Thanks for listening. We'll see you Saturday afternoon at Bridgestone Arena. All right, we'll come back and put a bow on Wednesday's show on the other side. But first, I want to talk to you about DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. And they've got a Week 5 offer that every football fan, should jump on. Listen up. New customers, if you're in that category, you should perk up when you hear this. All you have to do is just bet $1 on any NFL game, and you'll win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. Let me repeat that. All that has to happen for you to win is for either team to score a point. The last time there was a 0-0 tie in the NFL was 1943. So I would say that is pretty much in the no-brainer category. DraftKings customers can also get skin in the game with the new same-game parlays, where you combine multiple bets from the same game for bigger payouts. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. All you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Right now, use that promo code 1025GAME and just bet $1 on any NFL game to win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. That promo code again, 1025GAME. This week at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. You must be 21 years of age or older. Tennessee only. Restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and needs help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789.
Time for the very latest from Loan Pronto. Mortgage rates continue to be on the move. Don't miss the chance to lock in the best rate of your lifetime with Loan Pronto. Remember, call Loan Pronto today and take advantage of their super popular zero-cost refi program. Lots of people doing this, and they should, because you can get a rate with an APR in the low twos with no junk fees, no closing costs. They pay the closing costs, even if you refinanced 6 months ago. Loan Pronto's all-digital process, fast and easy, as I always tell you, virtually no paperwork required. Most loans get closed in 14 days. And if you act now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call Loan Pronto and start the process. Don't wait for the rates to come back up. If your current APR is over 2.75, call now for a free 30-second quote. Call right now, 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans eligible for zero-cost option.
in about 3 minutes. Don't forget to play Silly Underdog Picks today, where you get to pick 3 teams. Remember, if your team wins the game outright, not covers the spread, wins the team outright, you'll then get the points that the spread was. We've got weekly winners. Go to theGameNashville.com for more details to play. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket. We will be making our picks. We'll be reviewing tomorrow at noon. It's going to be must listen to. We'll review and then make our new picks tomorrow. It's going to be a special show.
I'm looking forward to the review.
Me too. Me too.
I know you are.
I really am.
You're in fuego.
I'm excited. I'm excited about the review. Still waiting for a congratulatory tweet from the commish, but, maybe next year. I've only won about 9 games this year, but hey, maybe it'll happen.
Hey, I've won 2 and haven't gotten
I noticed that it's working for you, Darren. The motivation, the drive,
the chip,
sticking it to the commissioner. It's. I just want you to succeed. This is motivational for you. I feel like if I did that to you, you'd let your guard down. You get soft.
Okay.
You want to win a title.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
He's sticking to it.
I used this on postgame last night. When you're in football, when we watch a football game and the road team, they score a touchdown and they go right to the fans, shh, be quiet, shh. The first line for the Predators, there's been a lot of talk about them, and a lot of it's not been favorable about their production or lack of and what they're getting paid. If they play like they've been playing so far, when they've been put together and out there in the preseason, obviously a really good night last night, they've got the opportunity to go, shh.
Mm-hmm.
Shh. But we'll see. Can they do it? Will it translate to the regular season? I believe that's going to be the top line whenever the regular season begins.
Well,
I said it last week. It's a game changer.
The motivational thing, Darren, I was just giving you flack about motivation. You're using it as motivation. I just do wonder behind the scenes, Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, all the talk about, hey, how do we get rid of these guys? Let's move that salary. Is that being used by them for motivation? Is that going to bring out the best in them? We certainly hope that that's the case. That would be good things for the Predators.
No doubt about it. That will do it for our show today. Hey, enjoy the rest of your day. Continue to be safe. We want you back with us tomorrow morning starting at 10 a.m. We look forward to talking to you then. Stay tuned. Stillman & Company is next.